lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after?
I will do my best.
Thank you.
Let's pray. Gracious and sovereign God, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to gather in service to our community. We ask your blessing upon this meeting, upon each commissioner, city official, and citizen present. Grant wisdom, discernment, and unity as decisions are made that affect the lives of those in our community, businesses, and homes. In a world that often feels divided, help us to be united in purpose for the good of all people. May this space be filled with respect, understanding, and a shared desire for justice, compassion, and progress. Give us guide every conversation, inspire thoughtful action, and remind us that leadership is not only a responsibility, but a sacred trust. So we ask all these things in your holy name. Amen. Amen. And for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Major. We have 3 proclamations this evening, which is not very many for the first.
No, it's quiet summer.
For the first meeting of the month. Mr. Baggett, will you please read the proclamation for Garden Week?
Of course. Garden Week, June 1st through the 7th, 2025. Whereas gardeners have a passion for nurturing the beauty and the resources of the earth through the planting of seeds, the care of all plants, and the riches of their efforts. Gardeners seek to add beauty, splendor, fragrance, and nutrition to our lives through the growing of foliage, flowers, herbs, and vegetables. And whereas gardeners advocate the importance of all creatures, large and small, that share our world and their roles in a balanced and productive ecology. Gardeners work to preserve our country's traditional spirit of independence and initiative through innovation and hard work. And whereas gardening furnishes a challenging and productive activity for our citizens, for those just learning as well as those having years of experience. Gardening promotes a healthy lifestyle that lasts a lifetime, helps reduce stress from other areas of our life, teaches that rewards can come from diligent efforts. And whereas gardening enables members of garden clubs across the nation and the world to make a world of difference in the communities where they reside and work. Now, therefore, I, Campbell Rich, Mayor of the City of Stuart, Florida, do hereby proclaim June 1st through the 7th, 2025 as Garden Week.
And accepting this proclamation in recognition of Garden Week is Mary Neal, the president of the Garden Club of Stuart. Good evening. I see you brought your friends with you.
Good afternoon. I want to thank
Ms. Neal, could you pull the microphone down there?
Yes.
There you go.
There
Thank
we
you.
go. Okay. Right. I would like to thank Mayor Rich and Commissioner Clark, as well as the other commissioners, for honoring the Garden Club of Stuart with a proclamation for National Garden Week. I would also like the lovely ladies in the pink shirts for attending. They are members of the Garden Club. Gardeners and garden clubs throughout the country take this time to celebrate the art of nurturing and beautifying our environment through a number of select activities to bring about awareness of this great gift. Here in Stuart, we have placed a creative arrangement in each of our libraries and include education as to what plant material is used, what National Garden Week entails, information on gardening, and how and why to participate in garden clubs. Photos of these arrangements can be found on Facebook under the Garden Club of Stuart, with links to what other clubs in the country have done for this event. The mission of the Garden Club of Stuart has been, and always will be, to educate the public about the various aspects and rewards of gardening, including conservation, community pride, natural resources, and civic beautification. We believe gardening envelops our whole being. Therefore, our theme this year is mental, physical, and emotional health through gardening. Thank you.
Hold on.
Get the group up.
Come on, lady.
Diane, get in there and we'll take you.
All right, everyone look this way.
I'll let Commissioner Collins be right in the center of
I've
that
got it.
background.
Okay, I'm gonna do.
What a bummer.
Can we have Diane in the picture, please? Come on. Come on, ladies, come back up.
Sat down.
She'll come in. We can.
Yeah, you do not want me to stick Misty on your. Gotcha.
Thank you very much.
Like, I used to do the rocket where you shoot it with water and it goes 100 feet. I thought it was cool. No, they're not. Freaking outer space. It's the real deal.
Mr. Baggett, Faith and Family Month.
Whereas Faith and Family Month 2025 will place an emphasis on family by the faith community and encourage participants to be family-centered for the entire month of June. And whereas the objective of Faith and Family Month 2025 is to encourage churches and businesses to support families by creating events that will educate, inform, and help deepen family relationships among husband, wives, their children, grandparents, and grandchildren. And whereas on Father's Day and throughout the month of June, churches will preach, teach, and share resources to strengthen the spiritual, financial, and physical needs of each family. Churches and businesses will be organizing service days, a youth concert on National Children's Day, June 8th, and informative conferences. And whereas families who exercise their faith and regularly worship and practice their faith together are less likely to have spousal and child abuse, dysfunctional homes, fatherless, or divorce. Faith helps family members avert lives of addiction, crime, violence, and imprisonment. And whereas Faith and Family Month will make our city stronger by encouraging and strengthening families in Stuart and making them healthier, more productive, and loving. Now therefore, I, Campbell Rich, Mayor of the City of Stuart, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2025 as Faith and Family Month.
And accepting this proclamation this afternoon in recognition of Faith and Family Month is Ms. Missy Harris. Is she here? There she is.
This is exciting. Missy Harris from Alamanda Way, right down the street. The faith and family, the community and relationships. That's why I'm here. With this proclamation, the last meeting touched, I'm going to have to read this. The last meeting touched my heart because of your conversations of what's going to happen to the homeless. We did hear from a pastor who has helped 60 out of 65 people in Jensen that were homeless. This month is Father's Day on the 15th of June. That's the family we need to restore. We need to bring the father back as the head of the house. The city of Stuart used to have church bells ringing. We had the Baptist church and we had the Lutheran church, and they'd have bells, and it was wonderful. It was happy. And they're no longer important to fix. I've called both church. I've called the Lutheran church, and it broke, which is sad. Faith and family are one. We must put the relationship, our family, with the community and faith back into our city, county, and then America. I want to thank the commissioners for the last meeting, because you really were interested in helping the homeless. We're looking for answers for the homeless, and my wish is, the reason I'm here, is that the church would rise up and join together. One pastor proves it's possible. So this proclamation, I hope, goes out as one church. We can conquer the problem. I appreciate what you're doing up here. I thank you for listening to me, because I decree and declare that the city of Stuart is going to restore the family and the leaders in the faith community to join together for our homeless problem and other problems. And the reason the pastor, who was successful for 60 lives, is because he loves God. And God loves those who love him. That's what the relationships that's missing. We need to remind ourselves that God is love. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Amen.
Thank you.
Missy, photo op. Ah. You're welcome, Missy.
And finally, Mr. Baggett, we're honoring another person with a presidential recognition.
Whereas the spirit of volunteerism is the cornerstone of a compassionate and thriving community, a young individual who actively engages in community service contributes immeasurably to the betterment of society. This proclamation is to honor and celebrate the outstanding achievement of a 15-year-old student whose volunteer efforts embody the values of compassion, leadership, and civic responsibility. And whereas United Way proudly acknowledges and honors Mason Marola as the recipient of the Presidential Volunteer Service Award with a certificate of gold achievement in recognition of over 100 hours of service within a single year. As part of this honor, Mason also receives a Presidential Service Medallion and a letter of recognition from the President of the United States. And whereas Mason's service includes active participation in several organizations, including Martin County Healthy Start Coalition, ARC of the Treasure Coast, and Cleveland Clinic's North Hospital and Family Health Center, all of which are in and directly support residents of the city of Stuart. He has also dedicated volunteer hours through United Way of Martin County, which is proudly headquartered within the city of Stuart. Through his selfless service and commitment to others, Mason has helped enhance the well-being of Stuart residents and exemplifies the civic values we strive to instill in the next generation of leaders. And whereas this award reflects not only Mason's generosity and commitment, but also the positive impact he has made on the lives of Martin County and City of Stuart residents. His dedication is a powerful reminder of the difference of one person can make and the potential of youth to shape a brighter future. Now, therefore, I, Campbell Rich, Mayor of the City of Stuart, do hereby congratulate and recognize Mason Marola with President's Volunteer Service.
And luckily, Mr. Marola is with us. Would you like to make a few remarks?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom told me when I was younger that, or I told my mom when I was younger that the number one thing to make you happy is serving our community and community service in general. It just, it makes you feel great and it makes them feel even better. So, yeah, and thank you for everyone who has supported me throughout the last few years, and I strive to continue this volunteerism and helping the community forever, so, yeah.
Well, thank you and congratulations. 15, you're all of 15, correct?
Yeah.
Here too. I didn't think,
Medallion on you too, She is. I'll let you do her. And Grandma. Timmy. We call her Timmy. Of course. All right, let's put a couple of I'm gonna do one. Can I have do one on this camera? Thank you so much.
too much in the frame.
I think you have to do one more take. Operator error, flash must go on.
Okay.
No flash? There you go.
You're welcome. That's right, Glenn. Yes. Give you all your stuff, and we'll do them.
Okay. We have one service award. He was here, he wasn't here, but in fact, he is here. Correct? Yes. 25 years of service in the Public Works Department.
In and out.
Sergio Pecori.
Yes, he's here. He has a speech,
Would you like to make a brief remark?
a long speech.
25 years.
Long speech.
Just keep on work.
Okay.
I'm on the city, so. Every time I know to retire.
That's
gonna be never.
Yeah, it's gonna be never, it's right.
We do sign a deal with the devil.
I can't figure this out. If it makes a noise, I don't know. Phone has changed.
There's a lot of those long-term, the city is lucky. And now we have a presentation from the Stuart Housing Authority, and who is going to?
Move back first, don't you? No.
No. And I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't have your name. Could you introduce yourself,
Yes,
please?
I will. My name is Rosetta Washington,
Yeah.
and this is Heidi Laborde.
Okay.
We're coming to you for, due to an invitation from, and questions coming from your city manager, Mr. Mortel, and to just give
Could
you a
you
brief,
speak into the microphone?
to give you a brief, I think some of the information, I'm quite sure that my email was very informative as to our role with the Stuart Housing Authority. We received from HUD, the Housing Authority of Stuart, back in February 9th of 2018 to run the agency. So upon that time, we came up with a plan and a resolution in an MOU to operate the Stuart Housing Authority, and we have since that time. I gave the information about the Stuart Housing Authority. We have 70 public housing units, and we also have about 94 Section 8 vouchers. Currently, due to a lot of applications, we've closed the waiting list. And we have emergency housing vouchers, but that program has ended. But we still have about 11 families on that voucher plan. We have affordable housing, which we have 5 units that we rent out and maintain. Heidi has been the operating manager there at the Housing Authority since our takeover in 2018. However, she's been promoted to programs managers for both areas. So her daily activity is not just to the Stuart Housing Authority, but to the Fort Pierce Housing Authority as well. Most days she can be found at the Fort Pierce Housing Authority with maybe 2 days at the Stuart Housing Authority, but there is employees present there. We operate 37 employees, so all of the Fort Pierce employees are also employed to help and serve the Stuart Housing Authority. Someone asked about our financial contribution from HUD. We received from HUD a total of $504,660. Our operating subsidy amount is $322,380 for this year of 2025. Our capital fund amount for that operation is $182,820. One of the reasons for my contacting the board was because we normally have a board of 7 commissioners. However, one commissioner a couple of years ago, she resigned, and because of the size of the agency, it wasn't necessary to have 7 commissioners. We have 6 commissioners. And most recently, one of our commissioners, Ms. Clark, she resigned, so we need another board member. And I contacted the city because under Chapter 21, your only mission for us is to assign a commissioner. So I reached out and I was told that we supply you with the names. And because we don't, I've reached out to some of the commissioners to find a replacement, and so far I haven't been given any. So we came here tonight because there were some questions or some concerns that the board had and not understanding your position as, I think, I'm just guessing, that the Housing Authority, our involvement with the Housing Authority, but it has been since 2018, and it was given to us by HUD.
Are there any questions of
I have a question.
Commissioner Giobbe?
Thank you for coming. It's certainly important to the city of Stuart. I spoke to Rhonda, the executive director, probably about 2 months ago.
She's here, but she's my
Hi,
assistant.
Rhonda. I spoke
She's
to-
my assistant.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I had spoken to her about 2 months ago, and at that time, she had mentioned that there had been quite a bit of time, probably 8 years, since there was an audit as to what the needs in Stamford were. I mean, in Stamford, listen to me, I'm in Connecticut again, of Stuart, and that you had not had a recent audit of, because we only have 70 units, and since 2013, everything, population has increased.
We have a yearly audit. We are audited every year.
Okay. Was there a need to readjust how many units the city of Stuart receives then? Or is 70 the maximum we'll ever have?
70 is the maximum you ever have.
Okay, then I misunderstood my conversation with Rhonda.
Well, we would like to. She's here.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay. I mean, obviously, I misunderstood it. I thought she said that, there are several, every 5 years, I thought she said that there would be an evaluation. So even though our increase in population doesn't really require any additional housing?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Not under our jurisdiction.
okay.
Commissioner Giobbe, could I just ask Mr. Mortel to clarify a matter of the audit? Because in fact, we do have an explicit responsibility.
So I think that when Commissioner Giobbe was talking about audit, she was not referring to a financial audit as it related to the income and revenues of the business, but rather was relating to an audit of the population of Stuart was 12,000 people when they got 70 units. Now the population is 19,000, and it still only qualifies for 70 units. And it doesn't seem like that correlates, because you would think with an increase in population, there would be an increase in demand, just as the judiciary is audited every few years and they appoint additional judges because the population has grown, not the term audit from accounting purposes.
And you are exactly correct. The conversation we had was regarding the fact that we have a 70-unit fair cloth. The fair cloth is established by HUD. It is not something that we can.
What's the term?
Fair cloth, Faircloth.
Interesting word.
Every jurisdiction has a fair cloth. The fair cloth is the maximum amount of public housing units you can have within the area. Here in Stuart, your maximum amount is 70, and we do have 70 public housing units. The question that was asked of me was, is there ever a time when an audit is done to see if there's new housing that can take place? My explanation is that public housing never can increase because that is the fair cloth that is set by HUD. I told the commissioner that I would look into it, and what happens is, once HUD establishes it, even though the area does grow, it does not change the fair cloth amount. That does remain the maximum.
I'm sorry, are you done?
I'm done. I mean, it seems.
Just to expand on it, does the fair cloth apply to, does it provide a cap to the Section 8 vouchers as well?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It also tells you, based on your per capita because what happens is HUD distinguishes your areas by small housing authority, medium housing authorities, and large housing authorities. Anything under 500 is considered a small housing authority. And as was said, we have 70 units here, so we are actually a very small housing authority.
Okay, the city of Stuart just lost a quite a few Section 8 housing units on East Ocean. Is this number, does that reflect?
No, the
law?
Housing Authority, we have what's called vouchers. Vouchers are separate and apart from the actual units. The vouchers are given to the people. They are owned by our clients, and our clients are then able to go into the community to find housing that will allow for Section 8. So you are correct. When that happened, it did cause us a great, great, great problem because so many people that were there, I think we had 7 people or that were in that we had to find a way to relocate them. So it does present an issue.
And because, I mean, unfortunately, I was too well aware of the great distress that caused so many people. How successful were you in that effort?
We actually worked with Florida Rural Legal to try to see if there was something that we could be done, because with the way that happened, unfortunately, there was nothing that could be done. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, people have been able to be relocated? Yes. Okay.
So just so for clarification for the audience's purpose as well, I believe there was a little over 200 apartments that were in what was called St. Lucie Place.
Right.
And St. Lucie Place was a tax credit private development that wasn't anything to do with the Stuart Housing Authority. However, it had a qualified income requirement to live there. So 100% of the tenants were based upon either 30, 60, or 80% of the AMI. And it was my understanding that the developer or the operator of that business received X dollars from HUD per unit. And like, I think last year it was $1,500 for a 2-bedroom unit. And so if they got $1,500 for the 2-bedroom unit, the tenant would be required to pay a percentage based upon whatever their annual income is. And if they were on a fixed income of Social Security of $1,200 a month, 30% of that would be $400. So the tenant would pay the landlord $400, and then HUD would pay the landlord the difference of that $1,100 to make up the total rent that was due to the landlord. Just, I'm saying that, I know you guys probably do it day in and day out. But when you just mentioned that there were people that had to relocate, from the commissioner's perspective, there was over 200 families that had to relocate. And I wrote down that you mentioned that you had 7 vouchers. So Stuart Housing Authority was only providing vouchers for 7 of those tenants. The other 220-some qualified some other way, I guess, would be the way to describe that? Through a different program?
Yes, that's correct.
And that was one of the questions that I was going to be asking, is it like, we get calls every day about the voucher programs or what the voucher program is, and I think everybody thinks it's a single idea. Can you guys kind of explain to us what the voucher program is or how it works?
That allows us to have a specific amount of vouchers.
Can you hold the mic over
Could you
closer
speak
to you,
into the
Ms.
mic?
Hamilton?
HUD allows us to have a specific amount of vouchers. The vouchers, tenants that are, residents who receive a voucher, they have to go out and find a landlord that would honor the voucher. We don't have X amount of vouchers that HUD provides for us. But there are low-income agencies who provide low income for it, but we are restricted to just the vouchers that our program has. So if of those 7 who ventured out and the landlords, and they received a lease by this landlord, they were able to get the unit, rent the unit. And once they do that, we pay 30% of their, they pay the 30% of their income, and we pay the difference. So once that program was gone, they had to go now and find another landlord that would take their voucher.
And can any landlord take the voucher?
If they want to, yes. But then if they have to file, they do have to pass inspection.
So they have to qualify.
Yeah, through an inspection.
So how do they qualify?
You're asking for the landlord or for the resident?
Landlord.
So the landlord, the way they qualify is they call, actually, just so that you can kind of understand, Rosetta handles all administrative work. I handle all asset management, and Heidi handles all operations. So this just
Okay.
happens to be my.
That's
my
great,
center.
however it works, so thank you for
So
coming.
what happens is, in order for a landlord to qualify, they call and they say, for instance, I have a 3-bedroom unit that I'm interested in putting on Section 8. Once they do that, then we send out our inspector. This inspector is certified by HUD based on standards. Originally, it used to be HQS, which was Housing Quality Services. Now it's Inspire, the national standard for real estate inspections. So there is a particular criteria that you have to follow. When we go in, when the inspector goes in, they look for exigent safety and health situations. They look for making sure that all of the outlets are in place, that there's nothing electrical that could cause a problem. They look to make sure that the plumbing is intact. They look to make sure that the foundation is intact. If all of that meets the requirements of HUD, then that house is allowed to be a Section 8 rented home. If it doesn't, then they have to bring it up to the standard of HUD. Now, even though a Section 8 tenant can rent that property, we are not allowed by HUD to direct them to any property. By HUD, we cannot say, this address has Section 8, go look at them, because we're not allowed to direct them at all. All we can do is give them a voucher and allow them to look. If we do that, we have gone out of the realms of what HUD allows.
Right.
And,
Excuse me. Oh.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
No, Commissioner Clark is next.
I'll let Ms. Commissioner Giobi continue
Thank
her
you,
line of
Commissioner Clark.
questioning.
Is there any agency that someone could go to get a listing to find out where housing is available? It's a two-part question. If someone comes to you and you've already utilized all your vouchers, are you able to direct them to those other low-income options that are available to them?
So let me answer that in 2 parts. We had what was called a housing list of people who had their properties up for rent, because they would call and say, my property is available for rent. We have since stopped that, and let me tell you why we stopped. We started finding a lot of people who would put their houses up for Section 8 rent, knowing that they were in the points of having a foreclosure. So you had a lot of people going in to rent a unit. They weren't paying their mortgage anymore, but these people were paying rent continuously, and they already knew the house wasn't going to be theirs for long. So it put people in a very precarious situation. So to protect our tenants and to protect the agency, we stopped referring. We direct anybody who wants to be a landlord to a website that was called Go Section 8 at the time. I believe that name has changed, but there are avenues. The second thing, because we are not allowed to direct, and because unfortunately we don't have the social services aspect at our housing authority, all we deal with is housing. We do not have another listing, and that is one of the things that we're looking to try to do right now. We've had a new person who was just recently came on, and one of the things that she wants to do is start looking at other avenues to kind of help people in Section 8 to see if there are other places who are willing to rent, because that has been a very, very difficult challenge in the agency, is finding people who are willing to rent their homes.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes, thanks. Hi, good afternoon. I've had dealings with you before. Just going forward, I used to be on the housing board when Ms. Berger was there. She's no longer there. But we built Delaware Commons at the time in Stuart. And right around the corner from Delaware Commons, there's public housing right there. We're on 5th Street and I think on 3rd Street in that area. And we have future plans for the city and so on. I'm wondering what your future plans are, if we can get you guys involved in our future plans, if there's any federal dollars at all to maybe upgrade those so that they could become 2 stories or even 3 stories. I'm not sure what we could do on those land and how big the land is, but if there's a way to help facilitate some more public housing, and I know that they've been there for over 60 years, but it's just a thought. And of course, the Delaware Commons got in because the city had property at the time and it all worked out with grants and funds and stuff, but we are wanting to move forward in Stuart, work with the county, work with any agencies, collaborate. And if you have any future plans or if you have any things that you can say, hey, if you can provide us with this, we can work with you with a federal grant to do something. So we'd like to work with you. At least I know that I'd like to. So if you can help me with information, I know that you sent out an email, but I know that everything is kind of tied up, and federal dollars are not easy, and we understand. And maybe you guys won't even have the type of housing, providing the type of housing because of the way federal policies may change, but I just wanted to put it out there. And I want to thank you. I know it's absolutely, this sometimes people think is a thankless task. I definitely know that you guys, even though you provide a good service, there's always a lot of complaints about public housing, and I'm glad for the management that you've provided consistently in the city of Stuart. We still need to do more, but we just have a very limited amount. And, you know, it looks like a lot when you see the little area that it's in, and it fills up between duplexes, and we do have some 2 stories, but you said it's just 70? And so and it's the whole zero tolerance policy, and, you know, it's only limited, very limited, who can get into these units, but we appreciate it. We think that you have a safe thing. I haven't had a bad record about anything bad happening on your property because it's of the zero tolerance and all that. But we appreciate it. But if you have anything for the future, let us know. Let our city manager know, our development department, whatever it is, because we can try to improve on what we have, and you have the bulk of it in Stuart. You have the most affordable or the only affordable housing that's available. So if there's anything that we can do to manage things or to assist, I don't know who puts in your air conditioners and things like that. I'm sure it's federal stuff, but all those little window things or whatever, anything that we can do, if we can go to Governor DeSantis, whatever, it's not federal, it's county and city and state. But, I mean, you guys have really, you know, you have 80-year-old, well, 66, 62. I think 66, I think, is Martin County. But it's, I know that it's those little air conditioners and the bills that these.
66.
1966 or.
The
when
air
we-
conditioning has been replaced.
Yeah, oh, it has been, because those people have a big utility bill. They have a little place, they pay a little bit of money, and they pay a $240 utility bill. I have no idea why. But maybe it's because of the little air conditioners or whatever it is, but there's a lot of work that we can do together to try to get some relief.
Go ahead.
Last year, I applied for a grant from the Stuart Housing Authority to meet the need of the AC issues that we have. One of the problems is, as I quoted to you, we only receive $100 and maybe $4,000 of CFP. What was it?
182.
182. That's all we receive for the year to do any type of capital
Improvement.
projects. And for 2 years now, we have gone over, looked at all type of AC. Rhonda does the procurement part of that, and we cannot secure pricing in that range to do it. What we've been trying to do is hold on to some of the CFP from a prior year in hopes of getting enough money to provide ACs. But I did apply for a grant, which we were not approved for. And we pulled the numbers. We've gone through different contractors, trying to get numbers to see if we can put ACs in the unit. But it's not fair to say, okay, we got enough money for 10. Who do you choose? How do you vet the 10 people to get the ACs? So what we've been trying to do is get hold on to some of the funding. And that's one of the reasons that it works for us having partnered with Stuart, because a lot of the things, when we got them, they didn't have an email account. They didn't, but it was not like the one we've upgraded. A lot of the things they didn't have a website. We put them on our website. So any type of information that you want is available through the website. That was not there before. We've upgraded both computer systems so that if something is needed, a person can work from Fort Pierce and log into Stuart. So they have availability to everything that's going on in Stuart. But it is a problem because we just don't get Rhonda can probably, I don't know if she has the numbers, but we have searched for ACs, all different types, the one with, the hotel type, all types, trying to figure out a way to put air conditioning in the 70 units.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that I'll work with my city manager and just to see, just if we can give you some ideas on procurement and some of the things that can happen. The other thing I was gonna ask, if the board would consider, as well as city manager, if it's appropriate, it may not even be appropriate under the different stages where we are with profit, nonprofit, federal, getting the grants, but if there's some way that if we have any CDBG funds, if that could be used to assist us. I know that you're another agency and another entity, but that could be something that we could look at. And I don't know if their entity can apply for some of our CDBG grant monies to do something, because we haven't been building buildings, but maybe if we can read all the fine print and figure it out, there might be a way to find X amount of dollars to do those air conditioning if we are able to do it. So, because between the CRA and some other things, I want to look into that.
We're open to it.
Do you wish to respond to that, Mr. Mordell?
He doesn't know the answer yet.
Well, I know that the CDBG money is not ours.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
100% sure we can't use that funding.
But-
But the funding for air conditioning, the commission could budget money through different things depending on if it was, the properties were in the CRA or not. But
Yeah.
there's also lots of priorities, and it would be a budgetary issue that we'd have to talk about.
Yeah, well, let's look into it. Those people are paying, maybe you could, if I'd ask you I don't know, the third, maybe you're the finance person, if you could just give us a summary of what their utility bill looks like, I would appreciate that for like 5 months or 6 months. If you could send us something that says what these people are paying, whether it's a 2-bedroom unit or the single unit, what their utility bills are. I would appreciate that information.
We do.
Yeah.
Do you guys even know, though? Don't they pay their own electric bills?
So we subsidize some of it, but however, they do have a portion that they
They
themselves.
receive an allowance.
Yeah. So let's see how that works. If I
But
could get some numbers, I'd like to evaluate it.
And part of the situation with that is the infrastructure of the buildings. As you've alluded to before, the buildings were created back in the 1960s or along that timeline. And at that time, the infrastructure was of such that there was no wiring or anything that was able to accommodate AC units. And it's very unfortunate, I've never been able to get the answer to this, but HUD requires heating. HUD does not require air, even in the state of Florida. So air is considered a luxury, heating is a necessity. So because of that, in order for us to use CFP, we have to do a nexus between the need and the cost, and do a cost analysis and the causation of such, because that is considered a luxury component. So if we get a special grant, we can always do that. If not, we've got to use the funds that we already have to be able to build up and show how we're not depleting the funds for regular needs and regular maintenance in order to put in ACs. When I did the work and did the cost analysis, in order to rewire the units and configure them, it's going to cost us anywhere, depending on the bedroom size, from $20,000 to $38,000 to do the wiring and the installation, because in order to do this, these buildings didn't have the furnace strips and all of the insulation that's required in order to house AC units. You put an AC unit in these homes and they don't have the correct insulation, then you've got a microbial agent issue that you're going to start creating. So it's a lot that is encompassed in this. The wiring and everything else has to be completely redone in order to equip it. The reason their ACs or their electricity, is so high, because as you know, a wall unit, most of them are not very energy efficient, so they get what they can. It is per unit. They may have 1 to 2 in there, and it does exacerbate their bill.
Yes.
So that is what we're fighting against. We've worked on it continuously, and just to, when Commissioner Giobbe did reach out to me, one of her concerns was the fact that, is there anything that we can do to kind of make our main office look a little bit better? And what I said to Commissioner Giobbe, and she was a little shocked when I told her, my answer was absolutely not. Yeah. And my reason for that is we will never do anything to make our office look better if we can't make the entire agency with all 70 units look better. It's not fair to our residents for us to look beautiful if we can't do it for them.
And I understood. I was reaching out on
Yes.
behalf of a constituent here who was asking if something could be done to upgrade. Just two questions.
We have trees at the city, and we can give you trees on your property and water them for 90 days, but then
They don't have a water
they have to
system,
do the
yeah.
water.
They don't
And
have
another
the,
thing, when those trees get big, they become a big.
Somebody
headache
has to
and
maintain them.
it's all about
tremendously,
maintenance.
Expensive to do hurricane, weeding, so that trimming, that is, that's a huge bill in Fort Pierce because the trees have gotten so big now. So a hurricane season comes, we have to have them all trimmed and everything. It is a tremendous bill. So when someone did talk to me, I said, I don't, yes, it would beautify it, but in the long run,
Thanks,
I
but
didn't think
no
that I
thanks.
would be there 30 years to see these big trees now cause us a problem. But it's very, very expensive and costly to prepare for hurricanes.
It is. Well, I appreciate all that you guys do. I wish you could do more. One last question about the 70-unit cap. Is there at any point that HUD considers increasing them? I mean, people, there's more people here, not just here, everywhere.
Well, I'm gonna just say off the record, HUD does not want to be in the housing business.
But they are.
They
It's like
don't.
the education business.
Yeah, so it has become, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and we appreciate
But
everything you do.
just to clarify, Commissioner Clark said we could give you more land, but, I mean, to what end? The number is 70.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So let me
HUD
answer
has
that.
to put the money
We
in.
would gladly take it as long as you could give it to us. Bill, if you build it, we will come. And what we would do is we would be able to take care of it through our affordable housing, we could use Section 8 vouchers. We cannot direct them, but we can always say that you have a voucher and the advertisement can be there that this is a Section 8 unit that can be done. So there are ways of doing it right now. We just don't have the revenue that comes in to be able to show us how we could do it.
Yeah, and we're in a community where it's easier to build a house for $1 million person than to say, hey, I'm a contractor, I'm gonna do Section 8 housing and send me your.
Yes,
Okay,
unfortunately.
I just have a couple, so you own 70 units, correct?
HUD owns it.
Okay, are there mortgages on those, or those are owned? So the individuals who live in them, do they have to qualify every year?
They don't well, yes and no. What happens is they do an initial qualification, then they do annual recertification to make sure
Right.
that they still meet the criteria on an annual basis.
So you can earn your way out.
A lot of people
If you
leave
earn
us,
too much, you would no longer
So
be
interesting fact about public housing. Public housing has what's called a flat rate rent, which means that if you get to a point that you're at a flat rate means that this is the amount, the FMR, the fair market rate for that housing unit, and this is what you're supposed to pay for the fair market rate for a 3-bedroom is $24.64. So a 3-bedroom is $24.64. If you have a 3-bedroom unit and your income is of such that you're paying $24.64, you can actually remain there for the rest of your life until they change the parameters, as long as you're paying the $24.64 and you're not in any violations, which is different from Section 8. Section 8 says that when you've gotten to the maximum amount of $24.64, when you've stayed there for 6 months, you're what's called HAP out, which means you are now self-sufficient and you are free to unfortunately go and find your own way.
So if you were a student nurse when you originally went in, and now you're the head nurse making $250,000, you can still remain in that?
If you're in public
That's
housing, yes, you can.
They don't have too many of those, though, just one.
Interesting.
Wait.
Okay, well, thank you.
Can I
I'm
ask a
sorry,
couple
Mr.
follow-up questions? What is the 2-bedroom rate, just so that we know it? Because that's a more common rate, and you obviously had that 3-bedroom rate right off the top of your head. I didn't know if that's a more common unit, but in Stuart area, we see a lot of 2-bedroom units, and people ask all the time, and I was mentioning $1,500 earlier, but I have no idea.
1674?
It is $1,674.
$1,674?
How much is your, sorry, Mr. Martel, how much is your portion of that, that you pay, and how much do
That's
they pay?
70%.
We pay 70, 70% of that.
30% goes to.
So they paid the 30%.
But their 30% can change dramatically. Because if somebody makes $3,000 a month, they'd have to pay $1,000, and HUD would pay the $674. If a person makes $1,200 a month, then they would pay $400 of that, and HUD would pay $1,274. So it depends on what the person's income is, but they pay the 70% based upon the person's income.
It's adjusted, so they may have, if they
Right.
have childcare.
Right, and so the net income is determined based upon what other expenditures they have, right?
Correct.
And I know under the Live Local Act, they say they remove utilities from the expenses, and you mentioned that you subsidize the electric, and is that based at the same ratio of 30/70, or is that different?
No, we have a utility allowance study that takes place every year, and they look at what is charged, and they do a comparative analysis of everything, of all the different areas. And based on the comparative analysis, they tell us if the rate has increased by 10% or not. If it's increased by 10% or more, then our utility allowance raises. If it has decreased by 10%.
What is the utility allowance?
It varies. It's based on what their numbers are that they come up with, the study that does them.
So the study that does them, do they use these units that have the really inefficient air conditionings, or do they use brand-new units to determine the amount?
It's a comparative analysis. They use our units as well as the units that are within the area.
And then is it intended to cover half the utilities, or, I do?
Now, that I'm
Okay.
not sure of, so I won't
And-
answer because I don't want to give you the wrong information.
And when we say utilities, I know that we were saying electric before, but one of the things we're struggling with is, what is a utility? Like, does that include stormwater, garbage, water, sewer,
Wi-Fi?
electric, internet, cable?
Not the Wi-Fi, not the cable, because most of the people who are on subsidized housing do get a subsidy also for Wi-Fi and for cable through other avenues.
Essentials, yeah.
Yes,
Some of the cable companies.
And what is CFP?
capital fund program.
And that is the HUD Capital
That's our
Fund program?
Yes, it
Right.
is.
You also mentioned you had 70 units as a cap, but you also have the voucher program. Is there a determination of how many people can qualify for vouchers, or is there a cap on that as well?
That is a cap on that as well.
How many vouchers are there?
94.
We have 77 is the cap.
Oh, 77.
94 we have because we have port-ins.
Because what?
Port-ins, people that poured in
Came.
from other states.
So if I got it, it's not,
It's not 94?
so it's 77 for Stewart Housing Authority.
Correct.
But if I got a voucher and I live down in West Palm Beach, I could come up to Stewart, find a voucher program, and then you'd be a port-in, or whatever it would be.
Correct.
And we would bill West Palm Beach.
Yes.
Okay, right, the housing authorities account for it accordingly. And then, and I know that you guys work together, but there's a Fort Pierce Housing Authority, correct?
Yes.
Is there a St. Lucie County Housing Authority, or is it just Fort Pierce?
Just Fort Pierce.
And how many housing units does Fort Pierce have?
826.
Hoi.
And
826 that are divided into 3 AMPs. AMP 1 is elderly disabled, AMP 2 are family sites, AMP 3 is scattered sites. I told you, this is my area.
Right, clearly, and you know it well, you
So how
seem
did
to.
they qualify for 800 apartments?
55 years ago.
Because of the size of St. Lucie County. We have no, I can't tell you how it was done or how they drew the lines, but this was just something that the federal government did.
And then how many vouchers do they have?
644 that are active, but we have a capacity of
856.
856. However, due to the market and due to the market amount, we are stable at the 644.
What, so you have 644 active units.
Section 8
And
vouchers.
then there's another 200 that are not issued?
That's correct.
Can people apply for those, or is that list closed?
That list is closed. We are at well, you know, from 5 years ago, rents have gone up.
Oh, yeah.
So we cannot use those, we can't operate those vouchers because of the high amount.
Your budget essentially
Right.
wipes them out.
HUD
Yes.
gives you a budget, and you have to remain within that budget.
But the city of Stewart's 77 vouchers, the budget went up at the same rate, so they didn't get wiped out?
Not much. I mean, you would be surprised at the difference in the amount for homes for rental use in Stewart as to Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, Fort Pierce.
Well,
And let
Port
me
St.
tell you the
Lucie is within the
difference.
Fort Pierce Housing Authority?
Correct.
Okay.
And what happened was, we're at 100% of everyone in Stewart, all 77 units have vouchers. In Fort Pierce, all of our people did not have vouchers, so they were able to go out and shop. As they went out to shop, I'm just giving you a number. Let's say when they first got the voucher, it was $500. They went out to shop, the voucher is now $750. That's a 25% increase. So if everybody had that happen, and back in 2019, 2020, I know everybody saw this astronomical change in the rental market, and what happened was, all of a sudden, people who had Section 8 houses found it more feasible for them to sell their housing to the highest bidder, and they took away the housing stock.
Sure.
As the housing stock was deplenished, then that meant the rental market increased in what we had to pay. So we had to go 120% above what the standard was, the payment standard, in order to be able to house people in St. Lucie County.
But
which-
Martin County didn't do that.
No,
That's- it
because we were
maintained
off,
it, right.
we were at capacity in Martin County.
And that reminded me of the vacancy rate, and you've been at 100% in Martin County since you took it over in 2018?
Yes, whenever
When was the last time there was a vacancy in Stewart?
last week. And we already have somebody ready to go in there.
And I'm assuming there's a list, right?
There is.
How does a vacancy occur? Is it, obviously, someone gets a job and they have to move to, Connecticut or something like that, but on top of that, would it be that if somebody doesn't pay their 30%?
They have to die first.
Heidi, that's
No, the
program.
current vacancies that we have is because they have chosen to move out.
They what?
They have chosen to move out on
Okay,
their own.
for whatever reason, right? But what happens if somebody doesn't pay their 30%?
We send them a 14-day notice. They don't pay within the 14 days, we send out a 30-day notice. If they don't pay then, that's when we file for eviction.
And when was the last time you had to evict someone?
Wow. It's been a long time,
Okay,
yeah.
not
Which is a
in
good thing.
recent memory.
No, mm-mm.
Okay, interesting.
I've been there
so-
7 years.
Could we allow Commissioner Reed, perhaps?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, okay, so.
I just had a question on the audit that you guys had. It mentioned something about writing off bad debt. What would that be due to?
Non-payment of rent.
Gotcha.
Going into I was just trying to learn about it because I know that you guys, you had started in your presentation tonight, and you had mentioned that the decision was made to go from 7 commissioners, and I know that that's what the state statute calls the board members, to 6 commissioners. Who decided that? I did. Okay, so but aren't the bylaws, and doesn't the board have to vote on that, or no? No. So why don't you just go to 1?
Well, we have to have quorum.
There's a minimum.
Yeah, there's a.
Which would be what? Well, a majority of 6, so it's 4. So it's 4 whether it's 7 or 6. But if you made it a 5-member board, it'd only be 3. But if you made it a 3-member board, it'd be 2.
That we're not allowed for voting.
I mean, it would, it'd just be less. But what do they vote on?
Policies, amendments.
Like amending that policy? But they didn't. But they didn't vote on
I
that.
can't
So
remember
what
if
they
did or
vote
not.
on is, HUD has certain resolutions that
Yes,
must be voted
in
on.
the budget.
We have what's called CMAP, which is the Section 8 Management Assessment Plan. Every year, we have to put forth to HUD exactly how we're managing our Section 8 program. We have to present that to the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners sees it, makes sure that we're operating in the way that we should, and they vote on that resolution. Every year, they have to vote on our capital fund, which I actually, be honest with you, it is a routine thing, because if they don't vote it, there's nothing we can do about it. But it's still a ceremonial vote
Sure.
that must take place. So the resolutions that HUD mandates, they must vote on. Any kind of policies that we want to enact, they must vote on. Any types of procedures that are day-to-day operations, they do not vote on, because the board does not manage day-to-day operations, just the procedures
I agree.
and, just the policies of the agency.
And also our operating subsidy. We have
Yes.
to apply each year to HUD for operating subsidies, so that goes before the board. When we do our budgets, it's voted on, and we send HUD, the resolution saying that it's been approved.
And I don't mean to ask a lot of questions, but I know that people hear this stuff and then they follow up and ask me, and I don't want to get it wrong, so you said your operating subsidy, so that's probably a term of art that the rest of us don't know, and I just want for clarification. Do you guys operate at a loss? Is that what that's saying? And you have to get more money from them, or is it?
Every year, we have to apply for subsidy through HUD. They want to know how much we spent for electricity, how much we spent for different management, they look at our financials. And based on what we have in our system now, it's more, when I started 30 years ago, it was manually done. But a lot of the information we report monthly. So now they have a more record of it, and where it used to take us weeks to do, it only takes a couple of hours because everything is pre-populated now. And so based on those figures, they come up with an amount that they're going to give us for the year, which is divided by 12. So I think I told you what we received for 2025 for Stuart, which was $322,380. So that pertains to salaries, that pertains to maintenance charges, contractors. Everything comes out of that $322,380. However, because Stuart is a small agency, in time past prior to us, the capital fund amount was used for administration. But because we have tried to limit the use of the capital fund, we try to hold it so that we can do something on a capital fund's need besides using it for payroll and different things. But because it's a small agency, HUD allows us to use the capital funds for administration. But we just haven't, because we've tried to stay within the 322,000 so that we can let it build up to do something major.
And that, by doing that, that's kind of the sharing of the expenses between, and you said there's 37 employees?
Yes, we have 37 employees.
Does that include the painting people, or is that because I know
That
in
was a
in
contractor.
Stuart.
That was one of the first things that was done. They painted the units.
Okay, because I thought that we had our painting guy in Stuart at the place all the time, like a maintenance guy, but that's okay.
We have access to all of our maintenance men.
Okay, now,
And when
because we
get-
have the new
yeah,
contract with you.
And if it's something that is a plumbing issue that needs to be done quickly, we contract it out.
And this could be, I could be totally wrong here, but there's just one of the things that I was told that I'm just looking for clarification. Does the board or the commissioners vote to forgive any debt? Because I heard that there was a meeting, they voted to forgive debt, and I didn't know what the debt was. So I was just curious what the debt was that they would forgive.
He's talking about write-off of depreciation.
We don't forgive it. We have to write it off. If they move out and they leave a balance, it's written off.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you don't forgive it, but it's right, you get debt, somebody owes $300 for this month, they didn't pay, they move out, obviously,
they
there's a
move out
loss.
knowing that,
Right,
yes.
or they leave the place in shambles and you have to clean it up and they wreck it.
Right.
But is there a policy or procedure where a tenant could be 3 or 4 months behind and the board could vote to say, okay, we're not gonna make them pay their 30%, we're gonna forgive that, and that would go?
No, then we have to get that off. No.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I agree with you that it needs to be fair.
The only time that happened was during COVID. HUD
And that's a
gave us
totally different,
mandate,
I get
yes,
that, that's not,
that said to us,
I don't even
"Okay,
wanna try to balance the world of COVID, because that was
Matter of
crazy.
fact, we've had agencies come to us and say we're no longer going to help residents of the housing authority pay their rent because it's already subsidized. They're already paying only 30%. So after COVID, a lot of the agencies that were helping residents pay their rent because they were behind no longer help.
And then, just so I understand it, in answer to the mayor's question, if I qualified to move into one of the units, I'm assuming you have a master list right now that has 1,000 people or whatever on it for the 70 units that are in Stuart. And when the person moved out last night, or last month, did you just go to number 2 on the list and whoever was there is?
Whoever was next.
And if I'm number 2 on the list, but for whatever reason, I already found housing somewhere else and I have 3 months left on my lease, could I say, can you hold on for 3 months? Or it's like, I take it today, or you go to number 3, right? And then, do I
So,
stay
excuse
number
me,
2 on
I'm
the
gonna leave
list?
it to them. The reason I didn't stand up is because I have an injury and I'm in excruciating pain.
Oh, sit down, please.
Sit
I'm
down,
sorry.
sit down, please, sit
Sit
down.
down, sit down, sit down.
But do I get to stay on the list if I couldn't, like,
You go
when
most
you
likely
call
the
to say,
front
are you
list.
available? If the person's not available, they're off the list then and it's over and you move on to the next one?
If they are eligible, they remain on the list.
Do they stay at the top or do they go to the bottom?
They stay at the same, well, it can.
Because they're number one when you call, right?
Well, we select 5 at a time, and we go through that list, and we place them as such. If all 5 qualify, we show number 1 first, give them the chosen, to show them the unit. If they choose it, then fine, they get a second try. But then we'll go to number 2 if they choose it. So therefore, number 1 will, number 1's not, yes, if they're all eligible. Number 1 says no, number 1 stays number 1. Number 2 takes the unit, number 3 now becomes number 2.
But number 1 can say, no, I'm not interested in it.
Right, and they
stay
get
at
that
number 1.
second chance. The next time we select for the same size unit, they'll be number 1 and they'll get that second try.
Have you ever
if
had
they-
anybody turn it down?
Yes, if they turn down both, because of the area that the units are in. The first one, maybe because of the way it looks, they're not happy with it. The second one can be in the area. So they turn them down, then they're removed from the list, and they have to apply again.
And is there anybody on the list that's already living in housing authority housing or subsidized housing?
No, once they're moved in, they should be removed from the list as housed, or,
Right, well, I'm just thinking to myself,
Marked
if
as
I'm paying
housed.
$2,000 a month rent, and you guys called me up on the phone,
Oh,
and I was gonna pay $271 a month, I would not be that fussy. I'd be saying, whatever you got, man.
you would think.
It surprises me.
I just have
Can
one.
I just seek to clarify? So you, both the Fort Pierce Housing Authority and the Stuart Housing Authority share the same staff.
Right. We,
However, there are 2 different boards, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
How many members of the board of Fort Pierce?
5.
And how many for the Stuart?
6.
6, okay.
Used to be 7.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark?
I have a question. Does everyone who is living in housing, public housing, do they have to be employed or just show a source of income, such as disability or social security or something?
They're eligible as long as they have a source of income, non-wage or wage, that
Okay,
they can work or not work. So that would be a form of child support, unemployment, or SSI, Social Security.
just source of income.
And also cash aid, so, excuse me. Cash aid is a form of income from a family or friend. So if they are able to provide that, that also qualifies as income.
Okay.
And it's earned or
What-
non-earned, unearned.
What was
Cash.
the last one?
Cash aid.
Cash aid.
Cash aid.
So they can
cash
qualify
aid.
with earned or unearned income. That's the correct terminology.
Okay. And then the same question that Commissioner Rich had, because it's been years since I've served on the housing board, and that might explain to people, we used to have the Urban League in Palm Beach who was running the Stuart one, and now the Stuart one is combined with the administration from Fort Pierce, managing everything, the painting, the air, the staff, all this kind of stuff. And I just wanted to make sure that people understood the relationship with the Fort Pierce Housing Authority as an entity in themselves, but they're also the managers of the Stuart Housing Authority. And then for the public, there's something called Stuart Housing Authority that has absolutely nothing to do with the city of Stuart, except that we approve the commissioners. People, okay, Ms. Hammond, you got it? Yeah, so people don't understand that. They see Stuart Housing Authority, they call us for everything, garbage, this, that, crime, it doesn't matter, which they should, it's fine. It's all in the city. But because of the name Stuart Housing Authority, and it has been there, and that's the way the federal government has put all these housing authority under the cities where they are, where they were created. And so Stuart Housing Authority is not something that the city of Stuart can go build or fix or do something for, and it's managed through you guys and whatever phone number is there. Of course, you're in the office here all the time, or is there somebody else here?
Now I am 3 days in Fort Pierce, 2 in Stuart.
Okay, so the office is closed most of the time here then?
No, it's open. Yeah, we
okay.
have a receptionist and now a
You
new
have-
hire.
You have you have a new
Yes.
hire?
It's open the normal hours, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4, and Fridays, 8 to 1.
Okay, We really appreciate this. The only other thing, one more thing with the Housing Authority, and it's not a complaint, I'm saying this up front. Housing Authority to me is just like the school system. You can't give the kids stuff in their backpacks. And so the same thing with the Housing Authority. It's not just about election campaign, but it's about anything else. We can't really get into communicate with the people who live in housing. But I think that if we give information, you can put it through a newsletter or through something. Is that correct? Like at the city, because we want the residents in the Housing Authority to be involved in city activities, to know what's going on at the community center. But it's hard. It's basically that no soliciting thing. That's what I'm getting to.
We opened that door last year when we met here, and I think we received maybe one or two emails with community events. But when we receive it, it's passed along to the
It's
residents.
passed, okay, all right. So so you encourage the community to try to contact your office to get community events so that the residents can know about it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Commissioner Giobi?
No, that's fine. Everything has been answered. Thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes, I had a question. When it came, I'm looking at the table for expenses, and there's a line item for administrative expense. Is that wages?
No,
And-
that's
Wages
our
are-
that covers wages, benefits for the employees that are scheduled to be there every day.
Okay, and for the administrative expense, is it you three that make up?
Not just us.
Not just you.
us. We have
It's all
finance, we have
37.
a
All
finance
37.
department that cuts the check to pay all the landlords and all expenses. It covers, maybe like 18%. I can't remember because it's been so long, but it's a very small
So it's-
percentage.
Yeah, it's just grouped together. All right, that's it.
Okay, well,
Thank you
wow,
so
that was an exhaustive.
You're doing a good job. Thank you, thank you. It's tough.
Moving on. Who is making this presentation, Madam Clerk? Oh, Mr. Trosky, are you going to be talking about STEM opportunities?
I am not, but I'd be happy to introduce to you this item, which is the STEM Opportunities Wolfpack CubeSat Development Team from students at South Fork High School. Would you like to come up to the podium, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We live in a
You
tumultuous
could just
time.
introduce yourself, sir, please.
I'm Kevin Simmons. I'm a professional educator, and I've started several companies that are staffed by pre-college students that want to get real-world, hands-on, authentic experience. And I was going to share with you, we live in a very tumultuous time, but also a time of great opportunity where we can prepare our students for really good 21st century careers. As I said, I'm a professional educator, and my students and I are here to share with you and help you, to help make you aware of some of our efforts to help Martin County students achieve their maximum potential. So this evening, we'll just share a little bit about what we're trying to do here in the county, and we welcome your feedback. So 10 years ago, I started, I'll give you very quickly because I want my students to take the lead on this. 10 years ago, I wanted to prove that middle school students could design, build, test, and fly real satellites and launch them to space. So that's exactly what we did. Just south, I started in Gardens. I was looking around the country for a school willing to take that risk. So we believe in something called blue sky learning. So if you're from an education background, that's a growth mindset sort of mentality that there's no boundaries on what students can do and accomplish. So with that, having said that, the Wolfpack CubeSat development team, which is represented here today, is a 501c3. And our mission statement is to design, build, test, and fly spacecraft before you graduate high school. So just letting you know that we really focus not only on the technology, but also what we call the talkies and the techies. So it's not enough to be a great engineer. You need to be a very good communicator and work well in teams, you know, be persuasive but not a bully, and be a critical thinker, creative, et cetera. So To accomplish this, because I've had such difficulty being an educator over 20 years, I literally started companies so that we could run down this path of preparing kids for the real world outside the constraints of schools and school rules. And we've been fairly successful with that. So you can see there are 2 LLCs and 2 501c3s. The Wolf Pack is a nonprofit. And then we started a conference 4 years ago at Kennedy Space Center that you'll learn about later that's very successful as well, focused on educators and students. So our approach, very hands-on. Students research, write, present, build, test, fly. And now I want to share with you this. This is actually an actual size of 3 of our spacecraft that we launched to space. They're called CubeSats. What you have is an anodized, it's an aluminum shell that doesn't have solar panels on it, but what it allows is a very economical way for students to learn systems engineering, mechanical, electrical, et cetera, and then do all these exotic payloads and come up with their own missions for space. They have become a very disruptive technology in our society. Right now, every nation that goes to space, normally the first satellite they build will be some version of that, maybe a little larger, but it's called a CubeSat. So I mentioned the 4 companies that I had started. I want to share that we were the first middle school in the country selected by NASA. We launched our first satellite in, thanks. We launched it in 2018. It actually flew extremophile bacteria. I'm just going to run through these satellites because I want you to see what we want to do with Martin County schools. So this was our first satellite. Those students in the bunny suits, they're like 12 and 14. And some of them actually lived in Martin County at the time, and they're in college now. But you can see we flew on a Falcon 9 for the first mission. Then I had a young man, 7th grader, had a great idea, so that became our second satellite, which flew up to the...
Just for clarification,
Yes, sir.
You flew bacteria into space around 2020?
2018. 2018. It was actually an extremophile bacteria. I'll give you a very 6th grade young lady found a paper, technical paper that said, what if dirty comets shed ice when they fly near a star and it seeds life on other planets? That was the experiment we built around that mission. So that was our first satellite. Our second satellite, a young man, a 7th grade young man, had an idea of what if we substitute supercapacitors for batteries? So again, all the creativity comes from the students deciding what is our next mission. So this one flew up to the ISS. It was deployed in 2022. And our third mission launched last August from California, and it involved looking at space weather and how the sun's activity in particular can disrupt our electronics in space. So that mission is currently ongoing, and this is called FlipSat, looking at bit flips. And if you have young children or you've ever heard of microbits, they're sort of like Arduinos or Raspberry Pis. They're a very low-cost way to access computer programming and whatnot. So that's our third mission that's currently on orbit. And here is our fourth mission that we're designing now. We are very concerned about microplastics in our environment. So the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat even has microplastics in it. We do autopsies now on the cadavers, and we find microplastics in their brain. So my kids are concerned about microplastics in the environment. So we actually are working with North Carolina State, my alma mater, and we've modified some bacteria that live in mud, like estuary mud, that actually have enzymes to digest plastic and get energy from plastic. So we're going to fly this bacteria on our next satellite to look at a time when we go to space for a long time, we need a compost pile, perhaps even for inorganics, just like we would organics. So that will be our fourth satellite. We're building it now. It will fly on Firefly. So I shared that with you because this is one mission that we could involve South Fork. But now I'm going to turn it over, if it's okay, for the rest of the presentation to my students and let them share with you. And, oh, sorry, I have one more slide. This is a mission that I definitely want to involve South Fork with. I have a launch service agreement with a Japanese rocket company. This will be our fifth satellite. It launches in 2 years. And we're going to fly a wooden chassis around a satellite because we have no idea what impact putting thousands and thousands of satellites in orbit are as they burn up, because they have a lot of aluminum and a lot of metals. So we really don't know what the effect of putting all those metals into our atmosphere will cause. So to address that, I have another young man who is a craftsman, a really great craftsman. So we're building a satellite around a wooden chassis. So that's our 5th satellite. But now to share more, I'm going to hand it over to Elliot and the rest of my students, which I should point out are like 9th and 10th graders. So thank you for your time, and we appreciate your consideration.
So as Mr. Simmons mentioned, we have a lot of opportunities locally, but then we also have opportunities internationally. Oh, sorry, I went backwards. And we want to be able to incorporate South Fork and other Martin County schools into those international opportunities with other schools and companies. So AglonSat is a pre-college satellite that's going to launch in the first quarter of 2026, and it's partnered with a school in Aiglon, Switzerland. It would be the first satellite to be launched in Switzerland that's a pre-college CubeSat, and our team has partnered with this school. So its plan is to characterize a thermodynamic environment that a small satellite would experience in space. And they're not only going to launch a CubeSat, they're also going to launch a high-altitude balloon, which is a tethered balloon that goes into low Earth orbit, and it can experience the space atmosphere and environment, and you can test the hardware up there. So the Wolfpack is not only helping with the hardware, but they're also going to help the team be ready to present their research at international conferences. So the Wolfpack Public Policy Team works to expand aerospace access for students and supports workforce development. We meet regularly with legislators and lawmakers at events such as Florida Space Day and Palm Beach County Day. And we have also passed resolutions with Congress and just recently secured a $350,000 state appropriation. During our last trip to Tallahassee, we had 43 meetings in just 2 days where we discussed student-led satellite development programs. We've also advocated for an additional $760,000 in satellite development and another $200,000 in technical skills training. Our goal is to be able to fund high schools across the state to build new aerospace programs so that they gain an interest in aerospace. And so, yeah.
Forgive me, you've applied for?
No,
You
we've
said
gotten
allocated?
accepted for the $350,000 grant, and then we've also advocated for an additional $760,000 and an additional $200,000.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Yes.
So our goal is to be able to fund high schools across the state to build new aerospace programs so that students gain an interest in aerospace, and then they hopefully get a career in aerospace, because right now we see a lack of technicians. There's a lot of engineers, but if we put these programs in place, students can get the micro-credentials necessary to become a technician and fill in the jobs that the workforce is currently lacking. So despite this recent state budget cuts, we've continued to push forward, and we want to support any student-led aerospace programs.
Awesome.
Now it's Tyler to share more about the conferences that our team presents at.
Thank you. Yeah, so as Elliot said, our team travels a lot. And so just this past year, we've traveled to over a dozen conferences internationally. And these conferences are in 9 different countries.
Wow.
And in the past, from 2018 to the present, we've spoken 110 different times in numerous international prestigious conferences in the aerospace sector of our economy. And so some of the conferences are listed on the screen, but these conferences are the most well-known conferences when it comes to this area of interest or this sector of the workforce. And as WCD team members or Wolfpack CubeSat development team members, we have the opportunity to not only share our experiences, even if it's just at a young age, with professionals who have some of the same experiences as we do, but we also have the opportunity to network, which is what I think is one of the most important skill sets that somebody can learn at a young age. Because like Mr. Simmons said, we have the techies and the talkies, and while it's important to be technically inclined, if you can't share what you're doing and you can't speak on it, you're really not gonna see success. And so, in addition to some of the conferences that we speak at internationally, some of these prestigious conferences, we also hold our own event, the SmallSat Education Conference in Kennedy Space Center. And this event is an annual event hosted by the WCDT and the Aerospace Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics. And this event is one of the best events that I've attended because it's provides a platform for young students to connect with other students, educators, and other just people who are in the same sector and the aerospace sector professionals, and meet real experienced engineers who can help them find internships or jobs in the future and become valuable connections, as I was speaking about before. This year, we have the opportunity to have two wonderful keynote speakers, Dr. Norman Fitzcoy and Charles Bolden, a former NASA astronaut and the 12th NASA administrator. In addition, as a WCDT member, I've been to this event multiple times, and as I was saying with the other events, this event is one of the biggest platforms for young students like ourselves to kind of connect with other aerospace professionals. So now here's Bianca, a South Fork High School student, to talk about what we want to do in the future.
Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Bianca Bernhard. I attend South Fork High School right now, and I'm going to go into my junior year in the IB program. So, I think, is this the next button? Okay, there we go. So we wanted to quickly talk a little bit about Florida Atlantic University. In 2019, they founded their Aerospace Experimental Association, which is kind of a similar organization to the Wolfpack CubeSat development team. And it's an interesting connection because a lot of our students have attended FAU, and some of them have done dual enrollment programs. So it's a strengthened connection not only from students in college, but students currently attending high school. And they are mainly focusing on plant growth. They're trying to launch their first CubeSat. They've had a lot of numerous recent successes, and our relationship has really grown as a result. We've helped them with building their own CubeSats and guiding them along the way because we've launched a few, and they've helped us with our engineering skills. They've run a few workshops with us, and we've just cultivated this amazing relationship. And I wanted to say a little bit that one of my close friends, who's currently earning his degree in software encryption, is a year younger than I am, and he is the software lead on this program. His name is Daniel Portis-Levy, and it's a testament to what the WCDT stands for, because age is not a barrier for these students. It's the drive and the passion to learn that really moves our program ahead. So here's where we get to the meat and potatoes of the presentation. So we are trying to launch our Dream Big program, which is an initiative to bring aerospace opportunities to underfunded communities. We want to build about something like this big, which is a form of a CubeSat known as a ThinSat, in one school year with the proper funding. Now, Suncoast High School has been working on this for the past year. They've formed their Suncoast Small Satellite Team, or S3T, and they've had numerous recent successes. 2 weekends ago, they launched a high-altitude balloon, which is a simulation of an experiment. So they launched a balloon really, really high. It's the highest balloon we've ever had. They were testing fruit flies, and their program has been running really well. They're rounding the corner on building and launching, and we're really excited for them. So given the success in Suncoast, Mr. Simmons had the idea to incorporate this into South Fork High School, and it's been a wonderful program. We've had a ton of interest from our junior military program, or JROTC, as well as our physics classes, which I am a part of. And we're trying to work currently with SPAM Robotics, which is another local STEM initiative, to get more students involved. And we have so much interest, and it's actually incredible to see how these students are able to recognize the STEM opportunities in Martin County. And we don't only want to expand to South Fork High School, but we also want to expand to the other high schools in Martin County, such as Martin County, Jensen Beach High School, and the Clark Advanced Learning Center. And so we wanted to thank you so much for your time and attention today, and we hope you'll support us in this endeavor, which we like to think of as the first real world aerospace opportunity in Martin County High School. It's been so incredible watching all my friends really recognize, like, wow, STEM is something that I can see myself in the future, because we're really building a future community of professionals, and we're really helping students recognize that they can go to space. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions of?
Oh, way above my pace.
By the way, I'd like to commend all, how old are you again? You're freshmen and sophomores, yeah? Well, you presented this information very well, so you've been successful at being able to speak about it as well as accomplish it technically and scientifically. I'm pretty dazzled by this effort by you, Mr. Simmons, is that correct? And your students here, so congratulations. Are there any other questions or comments to these?
I'd like Mr. Simmons' business card if he has one.
I think you're a little old, Commissioner DOB, to participate.
Yeah, I'd be glad to give you a card.
I think you're a little old to participate in the program.
No, we welcome any connections, any,
Right.
any community folks you think that would be the right way to connect, might be advantageous. We're just trying to help the students here go to space. And if it's all right, we'd like to present you with our team challenge coin. This is our, every member of the Wolf
Certainly.
Pack, they have their own coin. It's sort of the symbol of their membership in the Wolf Pack. So we brought each of you a coin, if that's all right. We'd like
Dude,
to
that's
present-
sure.
Is it more than $100 in value?
No, but if you want to write a check to the Wolf Pack, we will give you a check.
There it is.
Good marketing,
Do
I
they
like
all
that.
attend South Fork?
Say again?
Do they all attend South Fork?
They live in Martin County, but I live in
Actually,
South Fork.
I glossed over it, but I actually have students not only in South Florida, but in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ireland, Norway, and Israel. So,
Gosh.
and we're actually trying to build teams in Japan, and we work with students in Peru as well.
Yeah, and you said the middle school, but I didn't hear the name of the middle school.
So I started at the Y School in Gardens. That was where I.
North Palm Beach Gardens?
Palm Beach Gardens, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that's where I started, but in fact, the school only wanted me to work with students in that school. But as my middle school kids graduated and went off to great high schools, it became obvious that this is not a one-school program. So I welcome kids from wherever they are. And the truth is that aerospace is expensive, but the careers that the students can have there, they lend themselves really well. The skills that a young person would learn building a satellite is going to give them enormous job opportunities and good paying careers, not just, a job, but a great career. So we appreciate your time, and if it's okay, can we present you a
Commissioner
coin?
Clark
I
has
have
a.
one more.
The card.
Card.
Contrary to Commissioner Rich's statement, it wasn't about me going into space, but I'm certainly interested in what the young
Sure.
people can do.
So South Fork is a Martin County high school. So, I have to write this down so that I can remember it, but I don't know how often you go in front of the school board. Well, we have another time during this year where we have 2 meetings a year with the school board. It's called a joint city-county school board meeting. And I'd like to make sure that you work with Mr. Maine to see if we can have this type of presentation at that joint meeting at the Blake Library.
We'd be glad to. My only request is that my students get to present.
Yes, yeah, it's up to you and Mr. Maine, but we just
And they
want
do an
that at that
excellent
joint
job.
meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have you guys talked to Pursuit Aerospace in Stuart at all?
I'm not familiar with them. We work, in fact,
BDB?
Right, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
Yeah,
because
I'm in
there's a
the-
lot of
I'm on the-
aerospace going on, yeah.
Maybe
I'm
they
on the
can present
engineering
it.
committee of the West Palm Business Development Board. And for instance, we have strong relationship with Aerojet Rocketdyne. I'm actually getting to take students to tour there on Wednesday. So any aerospace or manufacturing or advanced tech organizations that you think would be interested in a highly skilled workforce, that's who we would like to identify.
Pursuit and Dyer. It's off the top of my head
And all
locally.
that's
Please.
happening at the airport, I mean. it's
Dyer's
just-
at the
yeah.
airport, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so much. And you guys, you did a great job.
thank you. I'm sorry I had to leave the room, but
I'm the one who wants the card.
can we take a picture with you, please?
Sure, let's all take a picture.
Oh, you want all the commissioners? Yes.
You're rich.
Wearing the right shoes and clothes today. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a very cool coin.
Working for Elon?
Are we all supposed to be in the photo?
Yeah, I'll come down.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Now I'm cold. Stop it.
Okay, let's go ahead and have you.
So I just have that.
It always works better when you have teamwork. Hmm? Yeah, because it's not my idea or your idea. I mean, like,
Look this way, and then I'll get out of the way
in
here.
your perspective, that was a very good thing. Look, there's blue on the road.
Oh, is this my chair? It didn't look like my chair.
Arbazal, I like better.
No, is my brain going? My eyes are going. Oh.
Yes,
Oh,
we
look
can.
at
We have
that.
time.
Oh, they look like twins. Okay, Mayor, you've had your minute of fame.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So your jackfruit gets, ooh.
All right, who's
We're on
going
the
up there?
record.
Okay. Jody, are you going to be talking about the 10th Street?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Ecomino.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Commissioners. My name is Jody Kugler. I'm the Development Director, and alongside I have Michelle Arbazal, one of my planners. Today, staff will be presenting an update on the 10th Street Traffic Calming Workshop that was held on May 22nd. I would like to thank Bonnie Moser for assisting staff in providing the different types of traffic calming examples. What is traffic calming? The primary purpose of traffic calming is to support the livability, and vitality of residential and commercial areas through improvements in non-motorist safety, mobility, and comfort. These objectives are typically achieved by reducing vehicle speeds or volumes on a single street or a street network. Traffic calming measures consist of horizontal, vertical, lane narrowing, roadside, and other features that use self-enforcing physical or psychological perceptions mean to produce desired effects. The city hosted a traffic calming workshop on May 22nd. Then we discussed the Southeast 7th Street, Southeast 10th Street, Southeast Cougar Parkway, Southeast East Parkway Drive, Southeast Medicine Avenue, Southeast Dolphin Drive, and Southeast Flamingo Avenue. The purpose of the workshop was to learn about traffic calming strategies and provide feedback. The meeting provided an opportunity for residents to express their interests and desires in the various types of traffic calming strategies they would like the city to provide safe travel through their neighborhood. This just shows that at that meeting, there was a lot of public participation. Approximately 15 residents did attend. Also, a link was added to our website, which allows residents to provide feedback, any updates through the city's social media page. At the meeting, these were boards that were provided, or this information was provided by Mrs. Moser. This shows the different types of traffic calming methods that could be achieved throughout the neighborhood. Again, some other traffic calming and some others. So one of the things that we did ask was the residents to fill out a little survey saying, and also they interacted with the boards and actually wrote on the boards of what traffic calming mechanism they would like to see in their neighborhood. And one of the things that they were all 100% sure was that 10th Street was one of the most traveled and network and also high speeds. So one of the things is that they did look at street trees. And as you can see, the measurements that we did and just took the information, there was 24 comments that as of today, we did receive 24 comments and we did compile them together. And it looks like the street trees are something that could be obtained immediately. This just shows you 10th Street east of Palm Beach Road. As you can see, there's no street trees along this corridor, at the bottom as well. This just gives you an example of what street trees would look like if you were to plant them along the 10th Street corridor. It kind of gives you that little bit more secure feeling, a little bit more that the road is a little bit more narrow and also a little bit more passive.
Some of these, this has already been achieved throughout the city. You can see at the corner of Southwest Riverdale Court and Southwest Cleveland Avenue. These are some of the roads that would be offset, like Dauphin or Madison. You can see that the trees have already grown over the road. It kind of gives you that canopy, kind of gives you that slow approach when you're going down this road. Again, down Southwest California Avenue. So some of these tree canopies have already been established throughout the city and in the urban area. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Chief Z. He's going to talk about the speed tables and what data he's already collected throughout by putting the speed trailer. And this is some of the statistics that were provided to us. And I do believe that he also has some updated statistics.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chief.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So I did attend the meeting back on June 9th, and one thing I'll say from that photo is I really didn't like the picture because it captured my bald spot, so I would request that they shade it the next time. Yeah, it's becoming more prominent, so I didn't think anyone was tall enough to capture that. So we're looking at the speed trailer data that was placed out there back on February 13th to the 19th. And there was the speed trailer was placed in two directions, eastbound and westbound. And some of the data, I mean, the data tables are pretty clear from the speed trailer. During those peak hours of the school zone, we can see speeds that, at least one speed was 58 miles an hour. That was outside the school zone hours, but excessive for that neighborhood. And during the school hours, it tells us what the average speeds are, maximum and minimum speeds through there. So the biggest concern is during the school hours, obviously, as the school children are whether they're being dropped off, walking, or biking to school.
Could you just explain what this graph is
I'm
showing
sorry.
us?
This is just the disposition of traffic tickets from 2023, 2024, and 2025 year-to-date. And it tells you what the verbal warnings are, written warnings, criminal citations issued, and then actual citations issued. So you can see that the written warning is the effort to try to educate motorists in the area, and that's why we see a higher number of written warnings. It's officer discretion, whether they issue a written warning, a verbal warning, or a actual citation. And we can see the green box, that's the highest percentage of written warning citations that are issued to motorists through the enforcement numbers that the officers had in 2023, 24, and 25 year-to-date.
So this is not showing us your speed data.
No, that speed data is on, I'm sorry, it's on my my tablet here.
Okay.
Are you able to pull it up off the, okay, no, it wasn't included in the
Okay.
presentation, so I apologize for that. I do have the data available. I'm welcome to share it with, whether on email
No,
or
I can get it.
other document.
Jody.
And so obviously from the enforcement side, from the police department, is with this data, is to compare it against the data we have, the trailers out there again for this week. They put out there last week to compare the data at the end of the school year, after the school year ended, to see if there are any spikes, or can we attribute it to that, the folks, the parents dropping kids off, whether they're running later or just, passing through the neighborhood to cut through from East Ocean Boulevard to Palm Beach Road or vice versa. So we do see that during some of these peak hours, there are speeds that are above the 20-mile-an-hour posted school zone speed limit. And so that'll be something that our traffic unit that is coming online will be poised to address for the new school year. And we plan to move them between the 10th Street corridor to the East Ocean corridor by Stuart Middle School to enforce that traffic during the school year, the morning session and then the dismissal period. And from the data, I mean, we see the officers, this year it's early into the year, 43 warnings versus 4 traffic citations. And, I think that, the data might suggest that we've given enough warning opportunities to folks that are going through there. So obviously now we'll have to switch to a more aggressive posture when it comes to issuing citations. And speeding citations are not cheap. And I'm not saying that we'll solve the problem by issuing citations to every speeder on 10th Street. But once we roll this out going into the next school year, or as soon as our traffic cars are out there, my direction will be more citations as opposed to more warnings. And because we see the data here with warnings being out there. So we'll also address that on our Facebook page and let folks know enforcement is coming. And we don't want, the speed limit is the speed limit. You shouldn't be surprised if you get stopped and you're exceeding the speed limit. but we will give notice that, hey, we're going to take a more aggressive approach with the speeding along that 10th Street corridor, especially during the school hours in the morning and the afternoon drop-off periods.
And that notice would be like, those are the boxes, those electronic boxes also on the street, like when it says construction, detour, whatever, you would have a thing that speed will be enforced as of June 10th or whatever.
I was talking about on the social media,
Yeah,
on our social
people-
media, but certainly I'd have to check
The
with
neighborhood
Milton
is good.
to see if we could put one of those message boards out there,
Yeah.
because certainly it'd make it glaring. We're not gonna try to hide the enforcement, but we do have unmarked cars that are used for patrol that we're gonna use for traffic enforcement so that they can be a little less, visible and, and they'll capture some speeders going through there. So we're working on those plans to spin those up for the school year, certainly because of concerns when and we understand, I hear the parents complain, the kids are riding their bikes or walking in the excessive speed. So, I'm a parent also, and I understand where they're coming from.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Is there a minimum amount, if you exceed the speed limit by a certain amount, you have to get a ticket and you can't get a warning, correct?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I have not written a speeding ticket myself in quite some time because of my position. I've written other traffic tickets over the last 2 years. I don't have the fine schedule, but I think it would certainly qualify over a certain speed for a reckless driving, which is a misdemeanor charge. But anything over the speed limit is a ticketable offense. The officers are given discretion to, if they say, okay, in my personal discretion is 5 miles over or 10 miles over, 7 miles over, they give people some discretion. But 1 mile over the speed limit's a violation of the traffic law, and, a person could be cited and issued a traffic summons or a traffic citation for that violation.
I mean, don't you want to be as visible as possible? You say you're going to use unmarked cars. Don't you want to be as visible
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
as possible with this enforcement? 'Cause
Oh,
then-
yeah. As a tactic, I agree. Some days will be visibility because the black and white cars, you can see those a mile
Right.
away with the lights. And I know we discussed with some folks at the meeting in June, maybe try to hide a little bit to see if we can see these violations, because certainly people will comply when we're there. It's when we're not there, if they're gonna uphold their end of it and control their speed and be cognizant of the children in the neighborhood.
Commissioner Giobi?
Yeah, on St. Lucie Boulevard, I believe, is they have a graduated speed table. So if you're 5 miles over, I think it's 25 miles an hour. If you do over 30, if you do 31, the ticket's 125. If you go to 36, the ticket is 175.
It's a state. That's the same here.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah, I just don't, I apologize, I don't have the numbers with me for what the
I've never
schedule
seen
is
that
for
sign
the
anywhere.
violations.
That's the only
but
reason I
it-
ask.
It definitely goes up, and there's points assessed on a driver's license, which affects people's
If
insurance
it's
and.
30 miles over, it requires a court appearance as well.
Oy. Commissioner Reed?
Where was the trailer located on 10th Street? This was on the east side, right? Not west side?
There's two, they put it, at the time that it was positioned, it was westbound near J.D. Parker and eastbound near St. Joe's.
St. Joe's. Where was the 58 miles an hour? It was 58, right, you said?
Yes, I'll just look at my
No
my
worries.
table here. That was on the St. Joseph's eastbound camera.
Wow.
I'm sorry, when it was positioned on the eastbound. And again, some of it tells me what the average speeds are on some of these, on these as they're going through. And, the maximum speed going through is, depending on the hour, it's 7 a.m. So the maximum speed is 41 miles an hour. And that's the max. And so the number of cars that are at that speed is not every car going through the intersection. But the data tells us that, during that time, there could be 19 violators that were, above the speed limit during that 1 hour increment. And it tells us a breakdown per hour for the week that it was out there.
Did it have the total traffic count on the east and the west side of town?
Yes, the total traffic count for the westbound was 26,481.
Wow.
And on the other one was 21,341.
It was there for how many weeks?
It was there, the dates were February 13th to February 19th on on the eastbound, and on the westbound, February 27th to March 6th of 2025.
I think that's it then for now.
Mayor?
sorry. Do you have a question, Commissioner Clark?
No, I just
Yes?
wondering.
Okay.
You're all-
Are we
I
there?
don't know if there's any other-
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions of Jody?
No, this, wanted just to provide the link. If you go to our website, you can click on and fill out the traffic workshop information. At this time, we would be looking at direction from the city commission, what our next step would be if they wanted to move forward with looking at doing some plantings or if any further
Is there-
traffic calming.
Is there anything from the people who were there, like Ms. Mosier, Mr. Camino, or somebody? Yes.
Moser has left.
She has kids. She has to do her thing. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Jennifer Kadir. I live on Flamingo Avenue. Traffic in our whole area is out of control. Thank you, Police Chief, for doing more due diligence to try to, help with citations, but really focusing on the psychological aspect and changing every single citizen's behavior when driving is going to be the thing that makes the change, because these schools, the kids are going to change over every 4, 8, 10 years, So the things that I think that could help are chicanes, where it's basically where our roads are excessively wide. Our roads are about 20 feet wide compared to the other side, like where Osceola is. They're about 14 feet wide. So we have a lot of room to be able to put a chicane. I grew up in Jupiter. We have them everywhere. It makes you just slow down. It makes you have to pay attention. It makes you not be able to text while you're driving because you're not on a straight and narrow and an open way. I really would like to advocate for bringing community resources together to be able to solve these problems. Like, I love the aerospace engineering guy. If we could get that program to build solar panels for our housing program, we could solve problems. If we start bringing our schools with our problems together, I bet you a 10-year-old could solve them, because our children are smart and we want them to be able to thrive in this community. And the other thing is art inside of these walkways. No one sees the walkways where the kids are crossing at J.D. Parker or St. Joe's. We have artists all over our community that would be willing to, for free and not use taxpayer dollars, to paint our crosswalks, make them bright. Within those, if you go back a few slides, you saw art in the crosswalks. And it's beautiful. 2, kids are happy, people are happy. Like, we want to raise the happiness level of Stuart, which would be amazing. Right there. Art in the sidewalks. It makes it visible, it makes it loud, it makes people want to slow down to see what's going on. I'm all for speed limits, but one thing that can help with our speed limits is, instead of it saying 25 miles an hour, it said 23 miles an hour. Psychologically, people stop and go, oh, and they automatically slow down because they want to figure out why it's 23. I was driving in Palm City looking at a house the other day, and the speed limit was 17. You're like, huh, and then you look at your speed. These little psychological tricks just help our society function more normally without criminalizing it. And I think that's the direction that we need to go. I came here for our street, but I do want to just say one thing about the housing situation. One, I don't understand why our water fountains have been removed. The water fountain at the end of Flamingo and Southeast Ocean was removed. I have no idea. And it's at the bus stop, and it's very hot out. I've even utilized that water fountain before. I went and got passports for my kids down at City Hall because we just went to Mexico. And the benches are designed with barriers in between. That is a visual representation that we are not accepting of anyone taking a break, a rest, or homeless people. I understand that there's a new law that it's illegal to be homeless, but for us to put physical barriers up is cruel and unchristian. The other thing that I would like to say is HUD is a government program that has golden handcuffs on it, can only do so much. And so they didn't ask for this, but I'm gonna ask for them because I don't think they knew. The county commissioners are the only people that can ask for or apply for the home investment partnership programs, the low-income housing tax credit programs, the community development block grants, and to use surplus of land to start creating more affordable housing. And if we put all of these communities together like other countries do, if we had elderly and people that age out of foster care that are still in college housed in the same communities, mentorships can happen. I mean, these people that were born now due to our new abortion laws that were forced to be born have a pathway forward and can actually thrive in our community instead of saying, here's 18, you turned 18, here's $200, good luck. I was not a part of the foster care system, but I had many friends that were, and that is not fair how we treat them. But my whole point is we cannot silo these problems. These problems need to be.
Ma'am, I appreciate your concerns on this issue. You're free to come back up when we have.
I'm done.
comment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're trying to stay on topic here. And, okay, sir. Did you put a green card in, sir?
I did not, so I didn't know.
Okay. And you,
You'll have to fill it out afterwards.
My name is Joe Longobardi. I live on Southeast Flamingo, a couple houses in from 10th Street. And it is a thoroughfare. I'm out, when I'm off doing work in the front yard, and people fly down the street. All I was going to say with regards to, I would think probably in Madison and Dolphin and Flamingo especially, there are no stop signs on 7th and 9th. So if you're coming from East Ocean and you're going southbound towards 10th Street, once you get to 8th, the road kind of gets wide. I'm on the wider end, on the south end. It does get wide and people get up to speed. And I would say 45 miles an hour is not, it's very common. And there's women walking, baby carriages, there's kids playing, there's animals. And it's just, simply 2 stop signs on our street on Southeast Flamingo would help. All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
yes, ma'am. Could you fill out a green card, please, sir?
I will be happy to put one out after.
Okay.
I also just want to say hello. I've lived on both Dolphin Drive and currently on Southeast Kruger Parkway, and I love all the research that has gone into 10th Street. I agree with all of it. We do have a problem. But as they're saying, our cut-through roads are major problems, not only school hours, but anytime there's church services, we're used as cut-throughs. Dolphin, I agree, some of the stop signs were helpful, but Southeast Kruger Parkway, again, there are no stop signs. There are a few speed bumps, and all somebody does is go over the speed bump and then floor it to get, pick up whatever time they've lost over the speed bump. So unfortunately, I don't feel comfortable. My kids try to walk or ride their bike to school, and we've had people literally tell us your kid was almost hit by a car because people are flying down Kruger Parkway. Now, I don't know the exact solution. This isn't my area of expertise, but I'm just hoping that we could have some additional support on Southeast Kruger Parkway because, and that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, the problem with the stop signs, it's sort of whack-a-mole. We have the same. I live on the other side of East Ocean, and the drivers become aware of that one through street that doesn't have the stop signs. And they, use it. Yeah, and they use it, so it's.
I had a large construction project, and every member of my street said, thank you, people stopped using it to cut through because you had so many trucks to your house last year.
Okay.
And now that it's over, we see it pick right back up, everybody cuts down.
Thank you, ma'am.
Keep that
Commissioner
construction
Giobi?
sign at the top of the road.
Mayor Rich? Everybody come park large trucks.
Okay.
Mayor Rich?
You have
Mayor
another
Rich?
comment? Okay.
Yes. I don't know if the commissioners, I would like to see those cut-through streets. I don't know if it's possible. At least during school hours, those should also be school-zoned. If you're speeding through those cut-through streets where they're trying to avoid, if they come out of the school and they're cutting that way, that should also be, it's a school, the school hours, if you're speeding in those areas, you should get a ticket.
Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, I just want to say, having the 4-way stops, some streets do have them in that neighborhood and some don't. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. And I liked how you suggested painting the crosswalks, or even, it's all,
Visual.
yeah, it's all visuals, like you said, and the speed limits will throw people off, right? 100%, you see it in a neighborhood, you're going to think, why is it 17? And as far as the Florida State statue for the speed limit going over, that gets your attention on St. Lucie Boulevard, right? It's a visual. When you see that dollar amount typically, You might think more about speeding in a residential neighborhood. I don't speed in residential neighborhoods personally, maybe on I-95, your driving conditions, you know, but through a residential neighborhood, Publix parking lot, those speed bumps, those are intense for anyone that goes through there as well. As far as narrowing the road, I know you mentioned it, some on Osceola, they're 14-foot wide. I would like to think most people in the neighborhood might not go for narrowing, or, oh,
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry, ma'am.
I just wanted to get clarification, Mayor Rich, that's all.
Okay.
It wouldn't be narrowing the road when you put in a street, it just means there's enough room on our road to curve it so that. You have to slow up. Yeah, so that you have a little zigzag where.
Instead of a straight.
Right.
Yeah, instead of a straight, so your eyes aren't wide open, you just have to zigzag.
Yeah,
It wouldn't actually.
the traffic comment. Thanks. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Commissioner, are you done, Commissioner Reed?
Not yet. Like, I know, so I've seen some of the bulb outs. I know what we did as children. So I grew up in Skyline in Jensen. Those are long streets, so I'm familiar. We would park cars. I'd have parents, neighbors, we parked cars. We made our own bulb outs. I'd also roll a ball out, right? You roll a ball out in front of a car, what's gonna happen? They're gonna slow down. Maybe, I don't know, maybe too intense for me as a kid. But that's what we did growing up, and I grew up on Linda and Melba and Jeanette and all those neighborhoods, and people sped all the time going to the church, preschool, and most of the time it was your neighbors. So I know if, you know, the new chief sends people over there, the neighbors are gonna be the ones maybe getting tickets. I don't know if it's people that are just going to St. Joe's and just going to church, or if it's your neighbors. I don't even know how you would get that data. I don't think it's necessarily possible to filter it like that, maybe. Maybe the chief has something to say on that, because you don't know where their destination is.
Yeah, it'll take a little bit of extra work on the analyst side, but on each warning, the written warning tickets and the citations,
See the
home
driver's
address, right, the
license.
home address is captured.
You're going to know exactly where they're from, because when the tickets start going out, they're going to call you.
Yes.
But yes, there is a way to track that. That's some data that we can look at, you know, as we go on, just to identify how many people from the
And
neighborhood.
as far
versus-
as, I did like what Commissioner Giobi mentioned about the school zone. I don't know if that's possible. It's state statute.
School zone is a statutory, it's got to be within
Minimum
a certain
distance.
distance of a
Gotcha.
school. We can't set the fines for the citations either. That's a state fine system. However, the tickets are already unaffordable. I mean, one of the reasons that police officers statewide don't write tickets is because they're aware subconsciously that the person they're writing the ticket to is going to be like unable to pay for groceries or rent that month because of a ticket. A lot of times tickets are $300 and some dollars.
Enforcement might not
So,
be the answer.
but, well, enforcement
Well,
is the
they won't
answer.
speed again.
People don't speed in Sewell's Point
Yeah,
because
correct.
they write tickets and don't write
Yes.
warnings. But now they don't even write tickets because no one speeds, so they don't have to write tickets. So if you lock down in September, if we really hammer it,
I agree.
by November, we're not going to be writing any tickets because everyone will know that if you drive through there, you're going to get a ticket.
That was a good point. I'm sure most people in this room don't speed in Sewell's Point, right? You're
Yeah,
gonna
man,
get a
they-
ticket.
They will
That's-
catch you.
That is true. I travel
They will
St.
follow
Lucie
you over the
Boulevard quite a
bridge.
bit. I do agree with the trees, right? But St. Lucie Boulevard with the banyan trees, it doesn't stop speeders. I lived on Jefferson Street, and it was always an issue. I know I believe, I don't know if it was the county commission or the MPO, they just did a four-way on Jefferson as well. And I think one thing that does make it difficult for us up here, the west side's in the CRA, so we have CRA funding. The east side by St. Joe's would come from, I believe, general fund.
Correct.
And that does make it a little bit of a challenge to fund it, by the way. The CRA has the money. So I
As of,
don't know.
as of right now, we're not, today's issue is just to hear public feedback. From a perspective of initial responses, the putting stop signs at every intersection in that neighborhood and enforcing the speeding will cost almost nothing. Then you start getting into long-range capital improvement programs as it relates to the bump outs and things like that, that can be done as part of the resurfacing programming that's planned for those areas and things like that, and can be part of enhancements based upon the commission's priorities in the budget cycle.
And in your experience, Mike, like I know myself and Vice Mayor Collins, we sit on the MPO. I mean, is that something we could bring to their attention? or-
You can't, because the MPO is FDOT money, and you have to federalize the program. So, for example, the Willoughby extension was federalized 2 years ago to become an MPO project, which means to get the funding for the federal government, it makes it a federal road. And as a result, they're not going to do the local roads like those neighborhoods for the purposes that we're talking about here. But again, this neighborhood and what we're talking about doing is well within the reaches of the city. It's just a matter of planning it and prioritizing what you want.
So four-way stop signs, maybe potentially painting the crosswalks,
Certainly.
the signs. I mean, signs are easy to do as
Right.
far as.
Actually, the Martin Arts Council just had put in, they didn't get it, but they had a program they were putting in for to be able to fund painting the crosswalks and everything. It was actually very nice.
Mayor Rich? Mayor Rich?
Yes?
I do have one more public comment, since we allowed the others.
Is that really what the public's looking for? Are you looking for the chokers, the neck downs, the raised crossing throughout the entire neighborhood?
Ma'am,
Come back up.
I'm sorry, you cannot engage the commission. He's incorrect too, okay? You cannot do that.
One of the reasons why is it's not tape recorded, and when you haven't, these meetings are supposed to be reviewed later and that people can see them online, and if someone in the audience is saying anything, it doesn't get picked up at all, and the references that are made just are blank on the screen.
Now,
You are free to contact any commissioner, and they are free
I'm
to
familiar
contact
with you
you.
guys. I'll reach out.
And the
I'll stop by.
reason, will you allow me to finish and that's why we have you fill out a green card, because if a commissioner has additional questions, they then have your contact information.
I'll stop at your house, guys, all right? As far as the street trees, is that just in the CRA? Is that citywide, Mike?
So I had mentioned at the half-cent sales tax that I thought it would be beneficial for the city to do a citywide street tree program. The commission hasn't voted on that yet, but we'll be bringing that back. Right now, it's only in the CRA, but we are gonna have that half-cent sales tax money that can dedicate that.
Which everybody is kind
Right.
of going for.
Right.
All right, that's all then. Thanks, Mayor Rich.
Commissioner Clark?
I don't want to draw the ire of Mr. McChrystal. Do you want to do your question first, Mr. McChrystal, or I can, I just have a few things. Come on.
When he said this is about getting the public opinion on this topic, then I guess I don't have to wait for public comment?
On this topic.
No, we've been allowing people to speak. to get
All
this
right,
issue.
thank you very much. The big picture is, I would hope that any decisions that are made will, A, treat every street that goes from East Ocean to 10th in the same exact manner and get the same exact treatment so that you are not promoting traffic to go more down one street versus the other. We don't want to have winners and losers here on the street situation. And I would think that if this is such an issue with all the residents there, then we wouldn't have a problem with having a special assessment for all the costs that this is gonna cost the city. So I'd be for that.
It's not a bad idea.
Now, let's talk theory and let's talk reality, okay? Because I see a lot of theory up here. Let me tell you about some reality. East 10th Street, I've traveled it for 40 years. Don't recall any injuries, don't recall any problems. These little yellow signs, they may work well downtown, where you have like ambient light all night long. But that 10th Street is dark. And I'm going to tell you about two incidents. They're both exactly the same. One was at night, and the first one that really got my attention, because it was very close, was at twilight, early part of twilight. I'm on my way to Planet Fitness from where I live on Flamingo. And these yellow signs that are in the dark, okay, and I'm driving my 2002 Sienna, hadn't warmed up yet, so I was doing 20, okay? I'm taking care of that old baby, all right? So there I am. My focus is on that first yellow sign that is just past Madison intersection, okay? And then about 5 steps this way in front of that is the white crosswalk. And me, being a stupid human that I am, I'm assuming all is well. There's the crosswalk, and my attention is on that sign glaring back at me. And I proceed to almost hit, I won't mention his name, but I've known him a long time. And all I can say is, thank God, he can't be the sharpest tool in the shed. He's wearing dark clothes, okay? And thank God he had a golden retriever. Because if he had a black lab, it would have been ugly. I would have been closer to hitting him. So the theory is, and the first thing I thought of was, oh, don't say it. All right, so, you know, it all sounds good, but I'm telling you, we need those yellow signs down. They're not working there. And it's happened twice at that same exact spot, because I think there's a field over there on that side of St. Joseph's where they do their dog thing over there. And it's dangerous the way it is now. They may work under ambient light, but that difference between dark and your attention on those little signs is not working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I,
Commissioner Clark, you may reclaim your time.
thank you, Mr. McChrystal. I'm gonna kind of start where Mr. McChrystal left off, or where he started with. The idea of doing something about the street for the children and being equal on that level. I've been to other cities, and it's probably citywide, but just something, maybe it's a Milton type thing. It would say like, you know, we love our children, or drive safely, or Stuart is a child-friendly city, or whatever it needs, whatever campaign we need to do to make something like that happen. I know I've seen that in other communities where they have done little things to make it bumped up, just like how the lady was saying, where you start doing this psychological changing in behavior when you see these kind of things. And I don't know if we can do that or not, which leads me to the next thing, is that funding that kind of stuff and coming to it, there's a thin sliver on the east side of Palm Beach Road that is technically in the CRA. The rest of it, all the way over to Monterey Road, is not. So something like the high visibility crosswalks that we've done through the CRA, and especially we've done it in the East Stewart area, we've done the high visibility crosswalks. That's a great idea. That's something that I think the parents and the residents need to still hammer us with, and let us work on that and figure out we can do it, whether it's through city funds, whether it's through those extra 2 cent, 1 cent tax monies, whatever we need to do, continue to work with us and let us try to get an answer to that. But I knew that if it was in the CRA, that would be something that could be put in as some type of a future project. But because it's just that little sliver, and maybe at some point we might reconsider boundaries and other things. We've expanded the CRA boundaries before, so those are things that can be looked at. Number one. Number two. Number three, the young lady had mentioned in her response to this comment about the housing, just to tell you that, for example, at the county, in Port Salerno, this is in the county, there's a butterfly house that gets both federal and other grant funding and fundraiser funding. And they're supposed to be for mothers and infants striving for success, but they have just recently added grandmothers, because people need that connection and that love. And some of these grandmothers are being put out of housing. Example, the place on East Ocean Boulevard that stopped the rent control and people had to move out. So there is a program where there are older and younger people living together, and that's down in Port Salerno
Are you talking about 10th Street?
No, I'm just responding to her. She brought that up. She just brought up a question,
Perhaps you
and I
could-
just, okay,
Perhaps
just
you
hold
could
on.
save that for commissioner
Okay,
comments?
I'm just responding to her since she's
Okay.
here. Okay, thanks, I think I know my bounds and limits. Okay, and then, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 10th Street. I think, that's it, that's it, just to make sure that we try to work with you guys. I appreciate Ms. Moser, she's not here, and she brought it up. It still needs to be brought up. The idea of trees and other things need to be sorted out. It's something to sort out, and I appreciate you, Jody, and what your department has ahead of you, not just with this project, but with other neighborhood projects. Which brings me to Mr. Mortel. I just remembered my last fourth thing. We have in our strategic plan a whole neighborhood goals and ideas that was created from back in 2013 when I was mayor, and we've constantly upgraded the strategic plan, but there's some things in there about neighborhoods, and we need to look at that and work with our neighborhood communities. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
So the idea, just to be concise, my feedback, Jody, I think trees make sense now, so I'll break this up into two chunks now and in the future. You'll never have to argue with me to plant more trees for a lot of different reasons. Enforcing traffic makes sense to me now, and then signs on every intersection throughout that neighborhood makes sense to me now. That's things that we can do now that are easy. Long-term, when we're talking about chicanes and circles, I do have concerns with, one, the cost of that, and if we're gonna do that, we need to make sure we're doing it intelligently, and it can't just be our ideas or ad hoc up here, you know. I decide a chicane will go on Madison. You know. So for that to really happen and make the most sense strategically, financially, because it's not in the CRA, there needs to be some more comprehensive study long-term for how we're going to do that. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't want us to be doing it ad hoc up here. And I haven't gotten that sense from anybody yet. But in terms of trees, do you have any sense of what that's going to cost?
So we have a tree program in the CRA that has 4 different trees, but they're not.
Right.
But, well, I don't care, but the cost of it, I can
Right.
take the same program for what those trees cost.
Okay.
The distinction is that in the CRA program, it's set up that if you call and would like a tree in your yard, we can let you choose from one of 4 different native Florida trees, and then we'll come put it in your yard. In this instance, we have to design it and hire somebody to design it because it's got to be approved by, you know, the trees have to be within a certain number of feet of the roadway. We've got to make sure that we don't hit any of the utilities because they're in the right-of-ways. And we're going to design trees, and let's use laurel oaks, for example. A laurel oak might have a 30-foot canopy, meaning 15 feet from the center of the tree forward, 15 feet backwards. So then we're going to want a laurel oak every 30 feet so that the canopy to canopy 20 years from now will actually reach each other. So it's not a situation where we're going to have one person that wants a tree. 10th Street going from the railroad tracks all the way to Monterey could be, 500 trees. So we're going to have to put it together. I'm not saying it's going to be laurel oaks either. What we'll do is look at the different types of trees, look at the different types of canopies. We need to make sure that the trees are hurricane worthy. Like a lot of the oaks are very hurricane worthy. People call it dade pine, but the slash pine trees are very strong because obviously they're Florida trees, but they don't have as big of a canopy. But the bigger the canopy, the more issues you have with power lines and the more issues you have with, the other thing that happens if, we could put these, flowering trees that everybody loves during the 1 month that they flower out, but the rest of the time of the year, those trees all drop flowers and buds and people get mad that they're under their cars.
Hurricanes break them in half.
And they go, a lot of the tababuyas just, they blow away.
So can you bring
But-
back?
So we'll bring back the program, the cost, we'll be able to show it to you, and then we'll say, look, under the half cent
Oak
sales
trees,
tax.
to put oak
okay,
trees down
from
10th Street.
here to here, right? We were thinking MLK, 10th Street, part of 7th Street because of the MLK. There's also some other corridors that we were looking at, but 10th Street is probably the first corridor that we would do. And
then we can figure
also,
out how to pay
right,
for it.
and then we're identifying which trees as well. Because the one thing is like a live oak, the live oaks are more expensive than laurel oaks, but live oaks grow much slower than laurel oaks. And so, how, do you want this tree canopy to be here in 100 years, or would you like it to be here sooner than that?
Laurel oaks are better, they grow fast.
They do grow faster, but they don't grow as big and wide as
yeah.
as the live oaks do. And again, there's lots of balance. What we'll probably do is bring 5 or 6 different trees to the commission and say, what's the direction of the commission as it relates, and here's your costs, and here's what it's gonna look like, and we're putting that together, and that should be coming probably in your first meeting in August.
And then in terms of a long-term solution, and studying that neighborhood to make sure we're having the right, what do we call these things? These chicanes and circles, these apparatuses, I don't know what you call it. These tools.
Modifications.
Modifications in the right place.
I will tell you
That's
that,
something that you can do with Bonnie. I know Bonnie
Well,
is
it's
not
gonna
here, but
be-
she's offered a lot of her.
yeah, and we will, and we have to have some of those designs done, but I can tell you, we had neighborhoods that wanted sidewalks, and everybody wanted sidewalks, and we spent $60,000 doing designs on sidewalks, and then when we presented it, everyone said, oh, no, 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 I meant across the street, because I like to park in front of my house, so don't put the chicane in right where I park my car, because I want to keep my car there, and so that becomes.
That's my concern
right.
with the chicanes is backing out, and
And
I think
not just
for me
backing out, but if
personally,
it's.
circles,
Right.
I think would make more sense, but.
And we'll have to, again, we'll bring that stuff back, but the immediate stuff with the stop signs is fast and easy.
Trees.
Tickets are fast and easy, and the trees, we brought up as part of the conversation, but it was really unrelated because we were presenting that to the commission anyway as part of the half-cent sales tax, just because even if there were no cars and the cars were going slow, 10th Street is blazing sun for all those kids walking home from school, so it was more of a shade, and in hope to get some of those signs off of 10th Street, because if we put some trees instead of signs, then people won't be able to park where the tree is.
To Frank's point, with it being dangerous at night with those crosswalks, is that something that,
I asked Milton to put 200 of them near his house.
is that something where we light that
I
up?
don't think many.
I don't think that's what Frank is asking for.
I know Frank
But
wants
I
the
could,
signs
but I
gone.
could put solar lights on them if that's what you guys want.
Well, actually, Ms. Moser, Bonnie,
think
has
people
said
use
that
the
there is something called sign pollution, and too many signs render them ineffective. And she has in fact suggested that we reduce the number of signs.
So Bonnie and Frank are in agreement. You see that?
Can I just add one question to build on your tree question, Mr. Vice Mayor? Can we add bump outs with the trees too? Because a bump out's going to be less than a chicane. I mean,
Well, I
chicane is
mean-
redoing the road.
It's the same
bump out.
thing. I mean,
Is
it's a
it?
matter
Wow.
of, is a Porsche and a Volkswagen a car? I mean, it's like, how much of it is gonna be designed? The reality of it is, we can put grass anywhere we want in the right-of-way and make the road narrower where that grass is and plant a tree in it. And so, someone might call it a chicane, and I might say, well, it's just a bump out because we didn't do the curbing and we didn't do it's not at 45 degrees, it's at 34 degrees, or whatever that might be. But the reality of it is, it's gonna cause the road to shift to the left or to the right. And where I put that bump out in the road, if it's right where you used to park your pickup truck, you're gonna say, I'm ruining your front yard. Although it might be somebody else might say, that's absolutely great, I wanted a tree in my front yard for the shade. So, we're just gonna have to balance that out, and we'll contact the neighbors and see, where to put them.
Well, the bump outs on Camden do not
That was.
change the
we have-
course of that road.
What we did on Camden was put parallel parking in.
Yeah.
And there's parking spaces that aren't there, they're grass instead. So think of Flamingo adding parallel parking on either side of the street, and then every 7 parking spaces, instead of having parking, you
I'm not
put in
thinking-
grass.
I'm thinking 10th primarily.
But again, that's, yeah, for the chicanes, it'd probably be more, or the road modifications, 10th would probably make more sense. But to me, that's, the one that Bonnie presented the design of actually had the design in front of the entrance into St. Joe's Church. So it was perfect because it was the end of Kruger Parkway. But the problem with it is that there's also an entrance to private property on the other side of that street. So we couldn't put it at the end of Kruger Parkway because it would block the curb cut that already exists. And then if you move it over, it has a different effect. So we'll look at it. We're gonna bring it to you guys and bring it back. Tonight's point was just to kind of give you an update of the workshop and where we are this far.
So you don't need any more specific direction from us?
Well, I think it was more to give you the feedback that we got from the
Okay.
public, And then we're gonna bring back to you this stuff in form of a menu and a cost, like, how much do you wanna spend?
Thank you.
And how much do you have? Because
Being on the MPO,
that's
you
gonna
have
play
a good
another role.
idea how considerable these expensive things.
Right. It gets expensive
To
fast.
Frank's point, we can do a special assessment. About that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Joe's gonna
That
start.
neighborhood? Correct.
He'll pay for his part.
Any other questions of Jody from the commission? Or-
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, Jody.
Moving on to comments by city commissioners. Commissioner Reed, do you have any comments this now evening?
No, I'll sit here for the rest. I'm sure someone else has something to say, but I'm okay.
Commissioner Giobbe.
Good evening. First, I want to thank everyone for being here. It's always nice to see people from the public coming to these meetings. I missed the May 30th event, Saving Stuart Then and Now. My husband and I were in Connecticut to finally meet our great-granddaughter. Upon my return, I found that Commissioner Rich had made statements about myself and other commissioners, which I found to be unprofessional. While my views may differ from Commissioner Rich on a majority of issues, to publicly make statements that are not true is not acceptable. I can assure you that I am not anti-business. I have reached out to my attorney, who advises me that statements like what Commissioner Rich said could be considered slander. While we're on the subject of slander, let me address libel. Our not-so-friendly neighborhood person continues his weekly newsletters to call myself and two other commissioners as the Politburo. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary description of the Politburo is as followed: the principal, policy-making, and executive committee of a communist party. I just want to state for the record, I'm not a communist, nor am I anti-business. But I make these statements because I'm in the eye of the public, and unfortunately, statements made over and over again then appear to be true to the public. Thank you.
Commissioner Clark?
Thank you. I too missed the Duana event, and I'd already explained to the executive director I couldn't be there, but I think it was a wonderful event for Martin County for their 100-year, and it was just a great thing and a time to go back and revisit how Stuart was then, how we plan to keep moving on forward, and I hope that we'll continue to do that. So I really appreciate everybody who participated and used our Flagler Center as the space for that, and I think that it brought a lot of highlight or spotlight on the city of Stuart and as well as Martin County, and I appreciate all the work and the effort that everybody went through. I am sorry about, what is considered any type of comments, but I think that everybody's always trying, and sometimes things happen. I wasn't there to give comment, but I'm hoping that I can see some of the video and I have time to look at some of that stuff. My other comment today is that I just want to say 2 words. I'm going to say more, but it's official. These are my 2 words. It's official, and that is Chief Tuminelli, and now we have Chief Zanelovic. Chief Flamur Zanelovic. And so yesterday at my church, at St. Monica's Episcopal Church, we had a little worship service to honor the chief and then to welcome our new chief, Zanelovic. And we just hope that we'll continue with good law and order and that we'll continue to have just good results from all of our police department. We saw 3 young people here tonight with the STEM, but I tell you, my heart was just going like this, especially knowing that I have a son who's in the military, and I see the students dressed a certain way and portraying a certain type of deportment. It was just absolutely wonderful. I commend Lieutenant Shine, Officer Hurtado, and everybody else who has a hand on these police cadets and explorers and all the things that they do. There is a future. There was so much innocence and the ability to know that these guys are really sincere and they're looking forward to a future. And it was, I don't want to bring church back in the city council, but Chief knew, he experienced it. It was just a wonderful, wonderful time, and I really appreciate all the work that our officers are pouring into the young people who are in the Explorer program and other programs to help them still have a mindset that no matter what all the chaos and turmoil in the world, that they can still look forward to a great future. I want to just emphasize that Mr. Mortel follows instructions, and he's very good at this stuff. And I don't know if it's Mr. Mortel or not, but I so appreciate that he followed up on the Housing Authority, and that they were here, they were well prepared, and that we had some answers, because people see it, and they just...
Mr. Mortel.
Yeah, they just say, oh, public housing, yeah. But when you listen to what the staff and the CEO and all the things that they have to go through, and we realize the federal climate and the funding climate and the lack of housing and how all of these things come together, it is really, really tough. And we appreciate everything that's going on, and that we can still have some people who have a safe place to live in Stuart, even though there's a lot of hoops that they have to climb just to keep that roof over their head. And then, of course, we have the homeless issue. So I really just appreciate that Mr. Mortel sincerely went through and followed up, and I really, really appreciate that. And I've never given a shout out to our city attorney since he's been since he's been our city attorney. But he came, did you come out yesterday? No, he wasn't here. He wasn't at the church. You were at the church service? No. I was not. No, he wasn't.
Are you gonna give him a
There was a
shout
tall
out,
guy
or-
at the church service. It was this
Well,
guy.
no.
But he, his office, actually it's probably Mr. Mortel's office. It's really Ryan Carvo, his office, and Ryan, they have been so good with dealing with responses to legal issues and to other things. And Mr. Baggett, you're holding down a good fort, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee.
Does that conclude your remarks?
Yeah, I have a remark that I'm going to be working on with Mr. McChrystal, I hope, one of these days. I want to bring Coco Goff here, tennis player, and that's out in the public now. I hope Coco is listening, but we want to work on something, try to get our community to be a part of. I know that we have a lot of older people who are involved, but really our recreation department, Mr. Kralski, I just want to upgrade that because I have a lot of girlfriends who play tennis, and I want us to really be active in our community centers and those who want to help children. We can do can we put some money to changing all of our tennis courts so that we can accommodate the Stuart Open? I'm just kidding, it's okay.
We could change the shuffleboard to pickleball.
Okay, we can do that. Pickleboard, okay. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes, does that
Thank-
conclude your
That,
remarks?
that concludes my remarks.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I didn't make a Milton comment.
I just wanted to thank Candace for putting on that event, Saving Stuart. It was actually really informative. I was glad. I was a little bit late because I was coming off of work, off the shift, but it was, sometimes Main Street and in the past, and, we can have our different political sides with slow growth and pro-growth, and as I see it, what happened here at that time is shouldn't be a political issue. No one will argue with you that downtown was a ghost town, it was a mess down here, and that it was a unique partnership across various entities, government and not, small business, to keep this place from dissolving. So I really appreciated that room was full of very fine people and a lot of history, and I just wanted to thank you for herding cats. I can't imagine what that was like, but especially having Jackie Lippish as a moderator. I don't think you could have picked a better person for that. She was fantastic. And that was it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would like to echo, we have Bonnie and Frank agreeing, and I'm not doing your remarks, but I wanted to thank Candace. It was a terrific event and very well attended, and people care so much. And I had not met all of those who were on stage, who got to remember the remarkable effort they made together. It's hard for people to understand how difficult that is when there's nothing there, and to have that vision and have that commitment and spend a lot of money and to achieve the success that we all benefit from now. I had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Dwani. Bonnie Moser's boss actually worked for Dwani quite a while ago, so they have an interesting connection there. What he told me was basically the point of my remarks, which is, hey, it's great what they did, but you now have an equal amount of responsibility to make sure it continues and to grow it and support it. He's very glib. He's a charming speaker, and his wife, I was very impressed by both of them. He made a very interesting comment to me, and he made two comments. One, he goes, don't study the successes, study the failures. He says that's going to tell you the changes you need to do to make sure that that business community continues to thrive. And the other thing he said was, all of your decisions, the single frame of reference is, are you making it easier and safer for children to live in your community? And I just thought that was such an interesting perspective. Maybe sometimes we make it too complicated, and maybe sometimes it's not. I'm happy to announce, and I just received notification of this, and I was surprised because on Thursday I was over in Charlotte Harbor, Florida. I was at a statewide policy subcommittee for the league, and the number one complaint was there's no money. Nobody's being awarded any money for any of the projects. We've been so spoiled, and boy, has that tap been shut off. But the last time I was in Tallahassee with the league, we went out to dinner, and I met a gentleman, Senator Darrell Rousson. Do you know Mr. Rousson? He's head of the Legislative Black Caucus. He also happens to be the vice chair of the Appropriations Committee. Okay. And we happen to be very involved in our discussions with the city of East Stewart, and he and I had a very lengthy discussion about it. I was quite impressed by him, actually. And he said to me, Campbell, I guarantee you are going to get your $500,000.
Praise the Lord, let's get it.
And that's the money we have been told that is in the budget for us. So Amen. Thank you very much to not only Florida League of Cities, but also, what's his name, Connors? I forget. Jordan Connors. Jordan Connors, our lobbyist. He was there with me at the time, and so that's very exciting news for us. That concludes my comments. So, a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by the Vice Mayor and a second by Commissioner Clark. Is there any public comment on this item?
No, what about city manager comments?
I'm sorry. Why did I jump over you, Mr. Martell?
I was letting it go. I don't really have a lot of comments. I wanted to say there was a memorial for Dave Peters Friday night. That was nice to see his wife and daughter, and a lot of people showed up, which was a tribute to Mr. Peters, which was very great. There was also a retirement party for Chief Tuminelli, which was well attended as well. And that, too, was a nice event. We're looking forward to the 4th of July happenings coming up in the city of Stuart about a month from now. The county, it is their 100th year anniversary, and the county has actually reached out to us and is working with Jim Shiralski and putting together a contribution to our fireworks. So that hasn't been finalized yet, but it will guarantee them to be a very, very good fireworks show. And then just lastly, the $500,000 is expected to be budgeted this week when they adopt the budget. But that's still, there's a line item budget process, so the check hasn't arrived yet, but it was very positive news, and we're looking forward to that. But I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that we did not get it 100% yet. Also, I met last week with the property managers for Wells Fargo And I'm going to be bringing forward some lease modifications to align up leases so that in '28, it looks like we'll have enough for everybody to move there. And I'll bring that forward if it plays out over the next month or so, but it looks pretty good. So we'll be moving everybody in City Hall there, and then we would need to build out.
You're not talking about moving the chambers, are you?
Yep, chambers as well.
28th.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
That's a,
Well, that's a,
yeah, that's a big
That's
move.
a big
but
bit of
lot
news.
Had a lot go on there, but that's why it's not all sewn up, but it looks pretty close. I hopefully will be bringing it back early August.
Oh, is there a chance for me to say something? I forgot to say this. And he was here in the audience, Mr. Craig McCarty. It's been a few years now, I'd received a mentor award, and I received another one again from Mr. Craig McCarty, and I forgot to say thank you to him, and he was right here, but I will send him a note and thank him. I know that he had wanted to do a program at the 10th Street to talk about obesity and mental health and some other things in the past, but I know that his general job and the services that he provides in the community takes care of a lot of that, but I always try to work with him, and I really appreciate getting this mentor award again this time from Mr. McCarty, who has a company called Who's Got Game. I totally forgot it, but thank you.
thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
No.
Yes?
To
We have
approve
it
the
to-
agenda?
My comments.
I don't think we voted on the.
We didn't vote on the.
No, we did not, but we had the motion and the second, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Comments from the public on non-agenda items. Do we have any green cards, Madam Clerk?
We do, Mayor Rich. The first is Kimberly McCarty.
Oh, there's a McCarty.
Good evening, Ms. McCarty.
Kimberly McCarty, I do have your award, your certificate with me, so I'll give it to you. On May 20th, I'm Kimberly McCarty. On May 20th, the city of Stuart hosted an Emancipation Day celebration recognizing the official announcement in Florida of the end of slavery. It was a wonderful event held right in East Stuart at St. Paul AME Church. However, it was disappointing to see that only 2 of the 5 elected commissioners were in attendance. As professed advocates of the East Stuart community, I really expected to see full board representation. Actions speak louder than words, and your absence spoke volumes.
Thank you.
Frank McChrystal.
From Tumanelli to Zanelovic.
The Nelevic, yeah.
Ain't that America? Thank the Lord we finally got an Irish police chief. Back to the traffic stuff.
From the Scotsman.
When I think of the money that's been spent on beautifying streets and making streets more friendly to anybody other than cars, I think of Colorado and the high-maintenance situation we created for the city there and how it looks dilapidated and run over, and it looks nice for a couple years, and then it looks like something that needs to be maintained, and that's a lot more money after you spend the money building it. And for instance, the neighborhood we've been talking about between East Ocean and 10th. I've been in Stuart for 50 years, and I don't believe that neighborhood has ever really been repaved. And every 7 or 8 years, you put a top coat of a sealer on there, and the public thinks, oh, this is great, and it feels smoother. It's a nice, smooth road for about 4 months, and then you got the old road again. And so I'm just thinking all the money that doesn't go into giving us really top quality roads in the city of Stuart and all the places that could be really repaired instead of the fluff, okay? And The real traffic issue in our city is not that neighborhood. You saw the interest, 15 people showed up. Count the people who live there. And I would like the people who live there, who are complaining, to please just be glad you live where you live. Be glad your lot is big enough so your kids can play in the backyard, okay? Be glad you have a lot that big. I don't see many people selling their houses there, that's for sure. The real traffic issue is East Ocean Boulevard between the bridge and Monterey Road. And you brought it up. All the people who live in the great town of Sewage Point, okay, and all the finest of people coming from Sailfish and the island, okay, they know they have to slow down through Sewell's Point. And therefore, when they hit the bottom of that bridge, they don't care about the city of Stuart. They care about getting to US 1 and beyond, 95, okay? So when we talk about people doing 35 or 40 in our neighborhoods, that's nothing compared to the 65 and 70 that's going on in East Ocean Boulevard right now. So either A, one more thing about all that money you put into the fluff, think about the cops you could hire and maybe have some more cops on duty all the time for traffic, okay? But East Ocean, that's the real issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, I'd be all for a fundraiser from the base of the bridge to Monterey.
Madam Clerk, anybody else?
Let's not call it a fundraiser.
Okay, can I get
Pay for some trees.
that concludes the comments from the, can I get a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Which
Second.
includes the additional amendment to the prior minutes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by the Vice Mayor, a second by Commissioner Giobbe. Any public comment on this? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, end of consent. Commission action. Mr. Baggett, will you read item 9 for our consideration, please?
Sure. Resolution number 59-2025, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute license agreement renewal number 3 between the City of Stuart and House of Hope for the operation of a community garden on city-owned property at 520 Southeast Florida Street, providing an effective date and for other purposes. This was prepared by myself, as it's pretty much described, I think, pretty clearly in the title of the resolution, but this is the third renewal of a license agreement with House of Hope so that they could operate a community garden. I made some small changes to the former license agreement that had been in place. It is set to expire in July, and it was a 3-year term, so that's why we have it on the agenda, so we can have it in time to be renewed prior to July. And they are responsible for providing education and events, and we are responsible for providing water, and they will also provide insurance, and they have agreed to indemnify us if there is any lawsuits involved with their operations on the property. And this is for another 3 years.
Mr. Ranieri, would you like to make any comments?
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Rob Ranieri, the CEO for House of Hope. Just want to say thank you for the years of partnership we've already experienced. We're looking forward to continuing the programs and continuing to keep the garden flourishing over the next 3 years with some plans to bring some activities in there periodically to continue to engage youth in the community. Some of the things we've done in that light in the past are like birdhouse building days. We've done seed planting days where the kids go home with plants. So we try to connect the activities back to education around how pollinators work or how you can grow food at home, things of that nature to make it meaningful for the participants. Again, focused mostly on youth, and then the food that's grown there is available for the East Stuart residents.
You got any mangoes over there yet?
It's getting close.
Yeah, it is getting close, hopefully.
I guess you're gonna need another 3 years, huh?
I don't know. Well, we'll definitely have mangoes in the 3 years,
Yeah.
but the mangoes, it's definitely getting close.
Somebody told me that you guys had an agreement with CoLab. Did you ever have that? I didn't think that was the case, but I didn't want to say yes or no.
It's not a formal agreement. CoLab on their farm side, when they have excess, they're actually extremely generous supporters and provide a lot of excess produce to House of Hope to distribute out to the
Okay, I was
community.
thinking it was like from that community garden going to them is what
Oh,
I
no.
heard. And I said I
No.
didn't
They
think
have their
that
own stuff.
it produced
Yeah,
that
they-
much. I know they did too, but
Yes.
that's why I didn't want to say no and then find out that in fact it was true that you were doing that. So I just wanted to clear that up.
So was this started by Commissioner Myers?
It
No,
was actually
this-
started well before that. It
Yeah.
moved. There was a different location for the garden. I think it
It was right by where Phil Harvey's.
Right,
Where the building bridges and Mr.
Yeah.
Christie.
Yeah, Charles.
We didn't
I was
have,
gonna say
this
Mr.
was
Christie
our,
started it.
this location was our first partnership with the
Right.
city on the garden. I think, if I remember the history right, you guys, the city did a land swap with Habitat
Yeah, we
and
gave
gave them a
Habitat.
buildable lot for a home, and we're left with a lot that couldn't really fit a home, and there was no real defined purpose within the city's goals for it, so we had the opportunity to
And
create the
we were
partnership.
trying a community garden, and it was very neglected. And then you came in and took it over, and it actually turned into a real community garden. That's my
It's
recollection.
been a great partnership, too. I want to, and I'm standing here, I absolutely want to give a shout out to Milton and his crew, because they're fantastic to work with, very supportive, help us keep it as, looking as beautiful as it looks. So we certainly couldn't do it without the support of him and his crew.
How much lettuce does Milton eat from the
Keeping them healthy so you guys have them around a long time.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions of either Mr. Baggett or Mr. Ranieri?
Mayor, I'd like to move resolution number 59, 2025.
second?
We have a motion by the Vice Mayor and a second by Commissioner Clark. Is there any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
There is none, Mayor. There is none.
No? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Giobi?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Collins?
Yes.
And Mayor Rich?
Yes. Congratulations, Mr.
All right,
Ranieri.
thank you very much. We're looking forward to the next 3 years.
Thank you very much.
I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Looking forward to mangoes.
Mr. Baggett, item number 10 for our consideration, please.
Resolution number 61-2025, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, authorizing the city manager to sign a letter of support for Stuart Main Street to apply for a grant to update design guidelines consistent with the Downtown National Register designation area, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
And who will, okay.
I'm just going to
Jordan.
do a brief introduction, if you don't mind. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jordan Pinkston, CRA Program Manager for the record. Stuart Main Street is requesting a letter of support to apply for a small matching grant to update the design guidelines for the historic downtown area. In collaboration with the CRA, Stuart Main Street submitted a grant application to update the 1991 Historic Properties Survey. In 2023, the City Commission adopted the updated Historic Properties Survey report, and then the survey provided the basis to apply for another grant to designate downtown Stuart as a National Registered Historic District, which is currently under review by the state. And the next step is to apply for the proposed grant application to update the design guidelines for historic downtown district. These design guidelines will allow downtown to maintain the area's unique character and contribute to its long-term preservation. They are crucial for ensuring that any future development and renovations are in line with the historic character of the area. And then Stuart Main Street representatives are here if you have any further questions regarding the grant. That's all.
Would this be the city just writing a letter, or are we matching grant dollar amount?
It's simply a letter.
Okay.
A
Letter of
recommendation
support.
letter.
It's just a
Letter of
signature.
support.
Is-
Candace
are there
Callahan
any
with Stuart
comments,
Main
or
Street.
Candace
Candace, are you
gonna-
gonna? enlighten us further?
Well, just to elaborate on Commissioner Reed's question. So Candace Callahan, Executive Director for Stuart Main Street, for the record. So it's part of our agreement and longstanding, almost 40-year partnership with all of you fine folks at the city, that Main Street submits a grant aligned with the city's goals and the CRA's goals. So that's part of our duty and responsibility as an organization in which, our mission is. So it is part of our agreement. We're not asking for money from you. Or additional funding from you, I should say. We're going after another state grant. Which we've been successful, and shout out to my grant writer, Jody Riley, in the audience. So if you have questions about the grant process or anything like that, she would be probably the best person for that. I can just speak on how it's related to our mission and our goals as an organization and working alongside the city, if that helps.
The amount you're seeking?
What's that, hon?
What is the amount you're seeking?
$50,000.
Okay.
We've got the historic grant. The historic property survey, that was a $40,000 grant that we were awarded. And then now we have the $25,000 grant that we're currently almost done with. The state's very behind. So we are just waiting on their feedback on our application for the designation for the downtown. And then as Jordan had stated, the next step in this journey of becoming a historic downtown and really pushing that mission and protecting and preserving our history here is to take a look at to hire a consultant, which is what the funding would help do. And we will put out an RFP and search for a consultant to help us look at our guidelines that are currently in place, which have not been updated for quite a while from my understanding, and review. And this will just allow us to kind of take a look at them, see if there's any recommendations that they have in order for us to continue, again, on this path of preserving our historic downtown. But we as Main Street cannot, because we're not a governing body and we do not want to upset anybody in the community, right? So that would be at your graces, right? That would be at your discretion as to what you choose to adapt or not, from my understanding.
And to whom are you applying?
What's that?
To whom are you
What
applying?
entity? State, federal?
It's a state grant. It's through the Division
State
of
of
Historic
Florida.
Resources.
What specific?
Division of Culture.
It's a small matching grant under the grants for that department at the state, the Division of Historic Resources.
Thank you. Is there any other comment? Can I make a motion,
No.
Mr.?
I just have one
The
comment.
Vice Mayor would like to ask a question.
Okay.
I just, for the record.
Yeah.
Who pays for that
Stuart Main Street.
person to, forgive me your name?
It's Jody Riley.
Sorry. Who pays for Jody to do all this research for us?
Stuart
to
Main
help?
Street.
Right. So to your credit,
Yes, sir.
I didn't always understand that in the past, but
Yes,
now
sir.
spending more time around Main Street, that's one of those added benefits of having access to you guys and being partners with you guys.
Yes.
Is helping deploy resources.
Yes. We're
I'm
in
sure
this
you're
together.
really good at what you do and you're not cheap. So she's saying
She's
yeah.
worth every penny, and she has been a huge asset to not only my organization, but me personally, because she knows my workload. So having her as our point person for the last 4 years? Almost 5. We're getting there. So she's just been really instrumental, and these grants are not the only thing that she's helping us with. We have a lot of I've thrown a lot of ideas at her and her team, and then they help us, obviously, again, still always staying within our mission as a partnership and bettering our downtown, like the art mural grant that you all thankfully, thank you again for that, submitted a letter of support on our journey of getting us an art mural for our bathrooms at Flagler Park. So it's, again, things like that that we're really working on to help better and strengthen our community in the downtown. So she's
Thank
worth
you.
it. Yeah, so, thank you.
Commissioner Giobi.
Hi, Candace, how are you?
Hi.
I just want to make sure, because I don't know how many members there are of the Main Street, but it's just that you have a membership, right? I mean, there are people in the community who are members, the business owners?
Sure. It's never enough. It's very slim. I could talk a long time, and I've always wanted the opportunity to speak with you one-on-one to explain that and how that works. As a 501c3 nonprofit, obviously, we have to have a lot of different revenue streams, right? One of those being our wonderful partnership and contract that we have with the City of Stuart. That is part of some funding that we use to further our mission. But yes, we do have memberships. It's not something that we really push a lot because it is our job as Main Street to serve the community and to serve our city and to advocate for y'all. So yes, we fundraise, we do sponsorships, but because of the nature of our mission, I'm not selling puppies and kitties in my past life like I used to when I worked for the Humane Society. That's an easy cause. That tugs on people's heartstrings. And I think the unfortunate part with Main Streets is that we're looked at as part of the city, as an arm of the city, but we're not government, we're not a municipality. We work with you to help support you. So a lot of the funding falls on our shoulders, and me selling a membership to a small business when I'm also just supposed to be serving them, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I was
But
just I guess what I wanted to know, because
the
I've been asked.
DBA gets a lot of those memberships, which is our Downtown Business Association, which, again, I would love to sit down with you and
Yes,
explain that in
we can
further
make an appointment to
detail.
do that.
Yes, ma'am.
But I was asked by someone, just to make sure that all of your members and all of the businesses get equal opportunity from the Main Street.
$30.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. I mean,
Yeah, I'm just asking that. I mean, what happens in any entity, you kind of have those favorites, but I'm just saying, everyone has an opportunity
Oh,
to
yeah.
reach out to Main Street and
yeah.
take,
And again, we
advantage of
don't just
those
serve the
opportunities.
businesses. We're serving this body, we're serving the businesses, we're serving the visitors, because a little bit of what we do is tourism. I'm sorry for that. I know that's looked
Just
at
don't
as
stay.
just,
You can tour.
all right, we like their money and we want, I get it. But, and also our
Enjoy.
residents, we are.
Spend your money down
We
there.
are the nucleus of this, of the downtown, we are this nucleus of the community. It's kind of naturally that way. So anybody can come and participate,
And we should
for
encourage
sure.
more membership because that's less money we have to spend to get the same kind of service.
We'll say
So-
that for another conversation. But yes.
But yeah, I'd like to have the
We can't continue to
opportunity. We
grow
just
and do
never had
better
the
and more
opportunity to sit and
things
get
if people
together.
aren't continuing to support us.
But I will reach out to you and we can set up an appointment.
I
and
would love
kind of
that, yes.
The
have a
vice
coffee.
I would love
mayor
that.
is the commission's representative on their board.
He is,
I know, but I can't talk to him except
right.
at this table. I
That's
mean,
why
so
we're able
really-
to also
Candace will
come.
spend quality time.
You guys
talking.
can meet anytime you guys want.
She'll talk to you.
Yes.
Mayor, I would love to.
With regard to resolution
Perfect.
number
Yep.
61-2025, move approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Clark. A second by Commissioner Joby. Any public comment on this item?
I have none, Mayor.
What?
I
I
thought you
have
said
none.
second by Vice Mayor, but,
The vice mayor seconded that motion.
I believe you did.
no, she,
Okay. A second by the vice mayor. See no public comment, no additional comments from the commission. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Collins?
Yes.
Mayor Rich?
Yes?
Commissioner Giobi?
Yes?
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
And Commissioner Clark?
And seeing no other
Yes.
items for our consideration, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.